as you think they're going to do. But, Deutsche, you have sort of inside knowledge from Mr. Goff, who says in certain circumstances it does.
Yeah, Darren Goff's here, Yorkshire's managing director of cricket, and he said that he's played it numerous times when it looks like the outfield, but it plays perfectly well. Although he did then qualify that by saying, but that's usually when it's a nice sunny day, and when you've got the overheads with you as well, then it can do all sorts. Well, I mean, there's no question about it. The overheads are here. It is grey and set in overhead. There are floodlights on. Light is okay-ish. But anyway, they're going to play. I think the team who won the toss were always going to be Rishi Patel, Sam Evans, Lewis Hill skippering, Umar Amin, Louis Kimber, Harry Swindles, Ben Cox, Tom Scriven, Chris Wright, Scott Curry and Will Davis.
In goes Wright, and Bowles goes past the outside edge with a ball that just bounces and maybe just leaves Lythe a little bit. Not much you can do about that one. And everybody just turns around and gets on with the game, really. Accepted for the first over of proceedings.
For Yorkshire, well, I'll give you them at the other side of this delivery because Chris Wright is back at his mark.
He's also got a mid-wicket, a mid-on, mid-off and point. In he goes, Bowles, and Lythe might just have played deliberately inside the line there, went forward and it missed it by such a large margin. I suspect it was almost a sort of just a deliberate sort of push forward if it goes past the outside edge, whatever.
So, Adam Lythe and Finlay Bean of course out there, Shan Masood skippering, James Wharton at 4, George Hill 5, Jonathan Telesol keeps wicket, bats 6, Matthew Revis 7, Ben Mike back in the side at 8, Jordan Thompson, Ben Code and Ben Cliff. So Ben Mike in for Don Bess.
In goes Wright, and this time it is a very clear leave on the part of Lythe as it's pushed across him and he lifts his bat over the line of the ball.
I know of no injury to Don Bess, so we're working on the assumption until told otherwise that he's been left out of the side. There was a discussion between he and Otis Gibson you could see out there on the field earlier on. I'm guessing that was maybe the bad news moment, but it is a green look, it looks like a green seamer. It's late September and Ben Mike is a seamer.
Wright is in, bowls to Lythe, who steps across and steps a little bit further as he lifts his bat over the line of that slightly short of a good length delivery that bounces a little bit into the gloves of Ben Cox. Now, I pointed out to Jonathan before we started that when we saw the lineup, only 3 of the Leicestershire side that was in the side that beat Yorkshire in the reverse of this fixture, the very first game of the season, are playing here at the Uptonsteel County Ground, namely Rishi Patel, Lewis Hill and Chris Wright. Otherwise, this is a very different side indeed. I'll go through it after this Chris Wright delivery, the last of the first over. He's in, bowls to Lythe, straighter, Lythe covers up and pushes it out towards mid-off, almost on the walk. So Rishi Patel at the top of the order is joined by Sam Evans, so Sol Budinger has been left out. Lewis Hill, the captain, 3. Umar Amin goes in 4. Louis Kimber at 5. Harry Swindles, after his heroics on Saturday, is playing as a batsman. He's making his first championship appearance of the season at 6. Ben Cox, on loan until the end of the season when he signs a permanent deal, or when his permanent deal, he's already signed it, comes into force. At 7. Tom Scriven at 8. Curry at 9, having played against Leicestershire for his home county Hampshire on Saturday. Chris Wright at 10 and Will Davis making his 4th appearance of the season at 11. Let us know if you're hearing us okay. Do please. I can be tweeted at FoxesCrick2023. Jonathan at
Jonathan Deutsch, or emails bbcwestyorkshiresport@gmail.com.
We'd be very pleased to hear from you. Jonathan has an update to do at 2:30, as indeed do I, but we should fit in a couple more overs before then.
So we have Tom Scriven from this pavilion end, right arm over the wicket, ball that asks Finlay Bean to play at it first up, and he drops it into the leg side and there is no run. It is as windy as I've ever known it at a game of professional cricket, no doubt about that. It's been blowing the internals, the roof, the ceiling tiles, I should say, not roof tiles, up and down throughout the day. You can see on the semi-permanent marquee at the Bennett end that that is also moving slightly, as in comes Scriven again, and Finley Bean drops it out into the offside no run. And I was mentioning Ben Mike in for Don Bess as the only change to the 11, so Ben Cliff has retained his place for a second first-class match of his career. I suppose it's Ben Mike's first proper game in red ball cricket for Yorkshire. He did play when he was on loan with the club at the end of last season in that annihilation by Surrey at the Oval. But first go of the season since been a permanent signing. Scriven in, Bean drops into the offside, no run. So yeah, so no front line spinner. Although the way they bowled last week at Glamorgan, James Wharton, for example, took a wicket in his first over. Right, so his first over, his second over, I should say, second over in first-class cricket. Bowling his off spin. Johnny Tattersall even took the gloves off at one stage and bowled some leg spin. Finley Bean had a go as well, kept wicket for a bit while Johnny Tattersall was bowling, and then came on and bowled himself at the end. He's just flicked one off the hip here for the first runs of the match. 4 through fine leg, a ball just too short lengthwise from Scriven, and also misdirected around about leg stump.
Afternoon, Dan. Dan Norfolk man. Thank you. All good on the BBC stream, he says. Which is always a relief.
Here comes Scriven again. This one shaping back in towards Finley Bean, who left it rightly so on length. Neil Bainton standing with his back to us at this pavilion end, and Neil Pratt at the Bennett end are the two umpires here.
Congratulations to umpire Bainton, who is umpiring his 250th first-class match today.
Yeah, I don't think he'll have umpired in too many matches where it's been quite as blustery as this. Scriven in again, and Finley Bean this time flicking squarer off the hip down to long leg, and we'll pick up 1 run to complete that over with the score on 5 without loss for Yorkshire, who were put in when Lewis Hill won the toss, which was made around about 1 o'clock. We've had delays for this and that weather. It had rained a fair bit this morning. Wasn't raining at the scheduled start time of 10 o'clock, but they were worried about the wind being so strong, and I think mainly the covers. And when we saw them trying to take the covers off, that seemed to be pretty well founded, didn't it, Rich? Because I was likening it to the potential for it being a magic carpet ride for the ground staff. It was difficult to get them off safely. Anyway, I'll leave you with this over, and I'll pop next door and do my update.
Chris Wright, 5 without loss. Patel goes down at first slip as Wright is in to Finley Bean. A little bit inside edgy as he pushes that one out, looking to hit it straight, and then it actually went. It ran out slightly wide of Lewis Hill at mid-on. Got plenty of it. Both Bean and Lythe, pretty similar figures at the top of the Yorkshire order in terms of their batting in the Championship this season, or in first-class cricket this season. 19 innings for Lythe, 18 for Finley Bean. As Wright is in, goes past the outside edge, or did he get a little edge on it? He went for the drive. Cox dived across to his left, and the signal is for a 4. Now, Cox dived across to his left in front of Patel. He's shaking his left hand. He got his hand to it. Now, whether it actually carried is another question altogether. I suspect not. The lack of reaction, they all have their backs to us. Obviously, we're looking across the ground, across towards the Bennett end, from which Chris Wright is bowling. So Cox diving across to his left, then pointing to a spot well in front of him, which suggests that is where the ball bounced. Right is in and bowls. Bean is beaten with a beauty that bounces and leaves him. All ends up, understandably enough. Yeah, the camera operators, I think, are going to have their work cut out to try and keep the cameras still. Bless their hearts. It is not easy out there. Obviously they've all got tripods and things like that, but they're all still having to hold them. Update coming from BBC Radio Leicester as Wright is in. Bowls outside off stump. Bean leaves. And there is no run. Here comes the update. Hello, welcome to the home of the One Day Cup winners 2023. I'm going to keep saying that today because it's the first opportunity I've ever had to say it. 9 without loss, Yorkshire. Leicestershire have won the toss, chosen to bowl first on a greenish looking pitch. We obviously have only just started. We lost the entirety of the morning to the high winds in particular, but also the rain as well. We started at 2:20 and we are going to have, weather permitting, 54 overs. Leicestershire have to win this game if they're going to stand any chance of promotion. They are 21 points behind Worcestershire in second, so they have to win this and also almost certainly their last game, which is up at Durham next week as well. The odds very much against them. Worcester probably only have to draw both their games to go through, but you never quite know. And obviously the Foxes buoyed by a Saturday's result, beating Hampshire to lift their first trophy since 2011. At the moment, however, Yorkshire have made a solid enough start. They are 9 without loss. It is ever so windy. I mean, high up or not, it's quite windy down below, but on top of the pavilion it is blowing a hoolie, as I believe they say in Scotland. And I feel sorry for the camera operators who are alongside us. At least we're sort of behind glass. They are wrapped up to the nines, hanging onto the cameras for dear life. Of Wright's over. 9 without loss after 3. All 9 runs to Finlay Bean. I was just telling you about the similarity of the returns in the championship for Messrs Bean and Lythe. Both obviously playing their 12th game. 19 innings for Lythe, 18 for Bean. 881 runs for Lythe, 862 for Bean, 51.8 average for Lythe.
And Scriven in, and Lythe solidly behind that one, pushing into the offside. No run. Floodlights begin to come on, which gives you an idea. As I was saying, light was okay, but you wouldn't exactly call it good, I don't think, at this stage. So they're being employed after just 3 overs of play. Scriven with his shirt untucked, flapping in the stiff breeze, comes in and bowls here to Lythe, who's solidly behind it, pushing into the offside, and it is fielded by Lewis Hill, Leicestershire skipper, and there's no run. Well, so far nothing's been doing a huge amount off the pitch.
No, 'twas ever thus, really. Wright's got a nice little bit of movement and bounce to beat the outside edge a couple of times, hasn't he? But as ever,
yeah, early days. We'll see how things pan out. 3 slips in place as Scriven comes in again, and Lythe drops that into the leg side. He's keen to get off the mark, takes on the Baron, and gets through. So Lythe on 1 from 9, Bean on 9 from 12. Yorkshire 10 without loss, 3 balls into the 4th.
Guy Gibson on the stream. It's so windy, I think it's blown Chris Wright's moustache off. Chris arrived at Sussex last week sporting a tash, and it obviously and inevitably was the subject of a certain amount of gentle ribbing from his teammates.
Here comes Scriven. Bean flicks that square on the leg side, and a good sliding stop out there.
Mohammed Amin. Sorry, Umar Amin.
So he's number 8, and narrowed that one down.
Mind.
We've just got one number to find, and that's Scott Curry, I think.
Might have to turn that effects mic off, it's so windy now.
Scott Curry, number 32, is here at third slip. Getting the thumbs up from my colleague. There we go. I did a bit of a test with Richard beforehand. Needless to say, don't enter a home or away question if you get that one in a quiz, because there'll be a bit of embarrassment there as that's pushed back down the pitch by Finley Bean and there's no run. He's accepting that, he's taking it on the chin.
Failed it miserably. Happily, we had a regular spectator up here in the box with us. I was having a chat. Who knew more than I did.
You did? Felt like saying, do you fancy doing the first half hour?
Chris shaved his moustache off before the one-day cup final.
Just for an extra mile per hour on the speed gun, without the wind resistance. Here's Finley Bean running one down through the third man, and they're going to get back for 2 runs to complete that fourth over at 12 without loss. Finley has 11 of them, Adam Lyth the other 1. Yeah, there's a few of those going on in the Yorkshire ranks. I talked recently about Matthew Revis. He was growing all sorts of facial hair at Scarborough the other week, I think with a view to sort of shaving most of it off but leaving a tash. I must admit, I didn't notice whether or not he'd retained it before the match today, but James Wharton's been doing his level best to grow a bit of a chocks away chaps type tash. I have taken the mickey out of him once or twice for him, but he's told me it's still not going to go.
Oh, righties, there was nothing. Yeah, it was as a batter special, you know. The works, but well, maybe he'll grow it back when he goes down to Sussex for the start of next season. Who knows? Callum Parkinson on 12th man duties, bless his heart. So he is finishing his career here at the Uptonsteel County Ground as 12th man. He was in the squad, not getting a game.
Yeah, he's. I mean, no surprises on this surface, the way it looks at least.
Will Davis almost at sort of 5th slip really, as much as gully as Wright is in. Bowls to Lyth, who is walking forward and then blocking it back up the pitch to Chris Wright. Trying to find a replay of the edge from Lyth a couple of overs ago that I think fell short. I'm pretty sure in fact I'm certain fell short of Cox, and he wasn't able to stop it off beat, sorry, and it ran down to the boundary for 4. Right, turns, runs in and bowls. Lyth drives pleasantly for 4. Slightly airy. It's squirted away square, but got plenty of it, Adam Lyth, and it has chased across the outfield to pretty much the point boundary in front of the Geary bar and the manual scoreboard. Harry Swindle's going to turn and jog after it, and Lyth moves on to 5-16 without loss.
Yep, I think just about in control. Just a bit too much width from Chris Wright.
Our thanks to Brunty for bringing up the splendid cakes from the Friends of Grace Road, who are open for business here, as ever. Bread and butter cake is my guess. In goes Wright, and bowls, having gone round the wicket, thick inside part of the bat from Lyth, taking his bottom hand off the bat, but managing to get it away backward of square on the onside, and Sam Evans comes into field.
Yeah, nice bit of cake. Is that in the meat that it's on sale? Or
it is in. It's below the meat now.
Oh,
they have their own little.
See that. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It says hot drinks and cakes. Friends of Grace Road. Right. Looks at the ball in his hand a little suspiciously. Grips it now. Turns, runs in and bowls outside off stump. Merest suggestion of a little bit of shape away from Lyth, who stepped forward and left it, and indicates with his left hand towards umpire Bainton, who I'm sure is very interested. He's standing a long way back, umpire Bainton, at square leg. There was a little bit of movement. 18 without loss remains the score after that couple that Lyth picked up off the previous delivery. He's on 7 now, Bean has 11. Floodlights beginning to take proper effect His right is in bowls, Lythe leaves outside off stump and again walks back into his ground, having walked forward a little bit, trying to reduce the amount of movement before it reaches the bat. So a few people in the meet on the first floor thereof, and there's a few people in the stands who've have taken advantage of the offer of free entry today. If you're listening and you're in the vicinity, yeah, you don't have to pay to come in. Right is in and bowls straight on off stump. Lythe is all care and attention again as he walks forward into the defensive push and then hops back into his ground. End of the over, 18 without loss after 5, and as Doiji said, the wicket looks okay from a playing point of view at the moment. It looks very green, but it is playing perfectly respectably.
Yep, so far so good. And, it's going to be Tom Scriven to continue at this pavilion end. Pleased to say we have elevated seating these days above the white metal bar that can be a bit of a pain when you sat down at usual seat level. I feel like I'm just about to get a short back and sides from a barber in this one. Raised level. Meanwhile, Scriven is in, and that's pushed just the off side of straight by Finley Bean. Dot ball.
If the wind is, so one or two comments someone added on the stream, if it's really annoying people, we can switch off the effects mic. We then sound as though we're commentating in something of a vacuum, but let us know if it's unbearable. I've turned it down as low as it will go.
Here comes Scriven then. Past umpire Neil Bainton, wide of off stump, and Finley Bean leaves. It's been a good season for Finley Bean.
Saying he and Lythe's figures are remarkably similar.
Yeah, not so far off Lythe at all. 3 centuries to his name. Should really have had another one. I know he's kicking himself last week. 93 down in Cardiff. They look to have found an opening partnership this year that they can settle on. And he's capable of producing the goods, and looking at those records, that was a dot ball, by the way, when you consider how few matches Yorkshire have played, you know. I think they stand up pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. Both will be thinking, we can still get to 1,000 here, which is always a nice little landmark.
Yeah, well, they probably were until they looked at the pitch, and they probably both thought it's going to take a while to get to 1,000 on this. But as we say, playing well enough, and there you go, over pitching and not really using the pitch here. Tom Scriven driven down the ground by Finley Bean, and that's going to be 4 more to him. 15 to Finley, 7 to Lythe, 22 all and from the bat so far. Quick word in the shell like from Adam Lythe. They both said that they enjoy batting together, and that is, you know, it's got to be a positive, hasn't it? Enjoy the company of your mate out there, and he can't believe he's kind of playing with somebody of Adam Lythe's quality. With his record in first-class cricket, he tried to flick that one somewhere away through mid-wicket, though, did Finley, and didn't quite get that one right. It's gone off down third man. They've got back for a bit of a stroll of a 2, so a little bit of luck on his side there. Yeah, he got 93 against Glamorgan, striking the ball really well and nailed on for 100. And of course, as soon as you start thinking that, well, we know what tends to happen in cricket is leaving this delivery from Scriven wide of off stump. And no run. But a high score of 135, averaging 38.82. I think I said he's got 300s, he's got 4 this year. But I think the 3 in first class cricket haven't ticked the right boxes on my
I was going to say, I thought he was averaging a bit more.
my parameters. Yeah.
50.
That's what I've missed out on doing, you see. There we go. Tick the correct box. First class.
Yeah. He's averaging just over 50.
Yeah, 51.47.
Right is in again round the wicket to Lyth, who again is sort of walking forward and then leaving wisely, perhaps. Scriven and Wright, Leicestershire top 2 wicket takers in first class cricket this season. Wright 43 wickets, Scriven 30. He'd dearly love to get to 50 again. Chris Wright at the age of 38 is a pretty admirable effort on his part, and it's one of the reasons he's won a 2-year contract down on the south coast starting next season. In he goes and bowls to Lyth on off stump. Lyth again is walking a long old way down the wicket, then blocking the ball back out towards Scriven. Cox though showing no inclination to try and stand up to Wright, who is sharpish, age 38 notwithstanding. Early 80s when there's ever been a sort of speed gun on him normally, sort of 81, 82-ish, but makes a difference, those extra couple of mph. Right is in, Lyth leaves, it bounces through outside off stump, a little bit short of a length this time, but a very safe leave again from Adam Lyth. Walks away towards short leg, a brilliant leg side stumping. Ben Cox last week at Hove. First I've seen from a Leicestershire wicketkeeper, well, for many years. Couldn't remember a previous one. But it was a really nice piece of work. And then he had another the next day. He was absolutely certain he did, but it was given not out. He said at the end of the day, he said, you usually get one of those chances once a season. He said to get 2 in 2 days would have been spectacular. And he's still muttering to himself that it wasn't given out. When he left Hove, in goes Wright and bowls. Lyth drives very sweetly through the vacant extra cover area. 4-4, lovely shot, it was full. Outside off stump from Wright, didn't do anything. Lyth stepped out, and minimal sound of ball on bat suggests that was a sweet, sweet piece of timing, and it really did race away to the extra cover boundary. He moves into double figures onto 11.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Wright, all the experience that he's got, he'll know that that's one place you don't bowl at Adam Lyth, because he'll nail that extra cover drive time and again. One of his prime areas for scoring.
Scriven had to just jog back from mid-off. It might be a bit damp over there, and the slightly longer grass in front of the Melton Building Society family stand, so might need a bit of drying, and indeed Wright spends a few seconds drying the ball on the bottom of his shirt before turning, running down the slope, bowling to Lyth, who's turning him off his legs this time, just slightly wide of hill, can get across from mid-on towards wide-ish mid-on, but he's on the edge of the circle, if there was a circle. He's deepish, so always was going to be a comfortable single to Lyth, who moves on to 12, 29 without loss. Good positive start from Yorkshire.
Yeah, Chris Wright maybe just overcompensating slightly from his delivery of the ball before when there was too much width.
Wright is in. You heard the yeah from Finlay Beaners on the back foot. He just dropped it backward of point. And Swindles, having slid and stopped the ball, had to pick himself up quite quickly, because Bean thought might be a second there. Well, I'd sent him back. There probably would have been.
There would have been, but Finlay, did you see, he lost his footing completely at the other end and ended up crawling astride, and Adam Lyth's tone became more shrill in saying, no, just stay there then. Or words to that effect. Good afternoon to you, Lily.
Hello, Lily.
Who's
in Malton.
Listening up north. And to Martin Rowe and to Anthony Harrison, everybody else who's Mark Bennett, Martin of 7 Casino Nights, who's been in touch for various reasons on Twitter at some point today. Danu 989 also included in that. And the Yorkshire CCC Grumbler, well, your umpires are Neil Bainton and Neil Pratt. Meanwhile, Tom Scriven, under the floodlights here, is in and bowling to Bean, who pushes into the offside, no run. Just the 2 slips now, plus a gully. We've got a point, a cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, and a long leg, so pretty much the blueprint for an early field. In fact, to make that 3 slips and no gully. You've just gone for a wander. They stood very close together as well at slip. Scriven making his way in then past umpire Bainton and shaping in towards Finley Bean. Drops it into the offside, no run. Yorkshire's top 3, all lefties. James Walton, the first right-hander to come to the crease, will be at number 4. George Hill, Jonathan Tattersall, Matthew Revis, all right-handers as well in the middle order. So Scriven turns again and bowls. It's just wide of off stump this time. Bean plays it nicely into a gap between extra cover and mid-off. That enables him to get through for another single. He's on to 19 here. Lyth on 12. 31 without loss. Halfway through the 8th over. 54 set to be bowled. Following delay, and then another delay, and then a further delay. And tea will be taken at 4 o'clock. If we get that far. And of course, rain would be a major threat if they've got to bring the full covers on again in these conditions. As that latest delivery from Scriven is wide of off stump, and Adam Lyth chooses to leave. It looked like there was nobody here earlier, but there are a smattering of spectators around in various places. The position of the strip allied to the width of the field here. Well, I suppose given that they've pulled in the boundaries on the top side, it's fairly central actually. Might be just still on the lower side of central, but not a lot in it. Scriven in again. Ooh, good delivery. Has the beating of Adam Lyth, who's falling over it, but it feels like it's leg stumpish. Might have even pitched outside leg stump, and certainly no interest from Neil Bainton. We're not sitting straight on, by the way. The box where I normally do my comms from next door, or my comms if we're doing a T20 game, might be just about straight on.
Well, not far off though. We can't complain too much.
No, I'm just looking bang in front. For me, I'm kind of 2 strips to the offside of where Adam Lyth's batting. That would be bang on straight for me. So slightly offset. And it's Lyth who's playing inside the line of this good delivery from Scriven. Last ball of the over, so 8 gone. Lyth 12, Bean 19. Still Yorkshire 31 without loss, having been put in.
Josh Holt, 19-year-old, another of the heroes of Saturday, comes out with a drink for Swindles. They've decided to leave Hull out. He hasn't played any of the last 3 championship games. I think they have been a little bit concerned about his workload, if you like, but given his size and pressure he puts on himself with his bowling, but equally a bit surprised that he hasn't got a game here. Right, round the wicket bowls to Bean, who is squared up, thick outside edge, bounces short of Curry at third slip, dives to his left, makes the stop.
Thanks to Paul Dyson, who's mailed in, says Bean's 1,000 runs. I'm excited by this when he says when Finley Bean reached 4 in his current innings, he completed 1,000 career runs in county championship cricket in his 15th such match. In comparing this with the 3 greatest Yorkshire opening batsmen, we find it took Sutcliffe 19, Boycott 22 and Hutton 25 matches.
Right is in, bowls to Bean, who leaves outside off stump, not so very far away, but a very good leave, good judgment. Well, congratulations to young Mr. Bean. That is stellar company to and to be better than those is a tribute to him.
Yeah, big feather in his cap. Or helmet, I suppose.
Tall young left-hander, very upright at the crease. Waits with back raised as right is in, bowls to him. Full, he waits for it, clips it out towards mid-on. Patel at first slip, inevitably, hands in the air, shout of frustration. He thought that might have snuck through. Kimber alongside him, Curry alongside Kimber, and then Davis at sort of fifth slip or just about gully. Alongside Ben Cox. Cox has taken the number 63 for his time at Leicestershire. I don't know whether that's the number he had at Worcester. In goes right and bowls outside off stump. Bean just leans forward, dabs it out into the offside. Yeah, he calls. Rightly, because Scriven has a lot of ground, bit of ground to make up to the ball, running down from mid-off, there being no extra cover. He does so, doesn't bother hurling the ball in towards Cox, just gives it a little bit of a polish and walks it back towards right. Bean having taken one and moved on to 20, 32 without loss. All the runs off the bat at the moment, no extras. As right turns, runs in and bowls, and an expansive drive from Lythe. Absolutely dismissed that one from his presence out to the cover boundary. It was he was turning away when the ball was probably not much more than 15-20 yards away from his bat. Hit that one so cleanly. Again, for the second time, Lythe showing what a good timer of the ball he is through the covers. If it's up there, he's going to go for it. And he connected beautifully again.
Yeah, that's a square drive for 4, cover drive for 4, and an extra cover drive for 4, so he's going through the full range. And again, well, both line and length, Chris Wright needs to revisit those because he knows how dangerous Adam Lythe can be.
He must have bowled against him well in innumerable occasions, so he knows his strengths. Should do. Right is in and bowls. That one bounces, and Lythe manages to sort of jackknife backwards out of the way of it. It goes sort of in front of his stomach and bounces through to Cox behind the stumps. An interesting delivery, the first one that's really sort of slight discomforted Lythe with the amount of movement in it. He's been beaten on the outside edge, but that one was a different kettle of fish. 36 without loss, Lythe 16, Bean 20 after 9.
Yeah, I dare say he might have a little abdominal red stripe across his sleeveless sweater. It's one of those sort of days where he's gone for a sleeveless sweater. I noticed Shan Masood had a full sweater on as I walked out to the middle with him just before he was doing the toss. He seemed to think there'd be more rain later on according to his weather app. And there was a bit after that, but nothing too bad, but they just had to cover it, and that made it difficult, didn't it, to get play underway when they wanted to. First ball of the over from Scriven is dropped out into the offside by Finlay Bean. We've got Ben Cox standing up now to Tom Scriven, so just dragging Finlay Bean back into his crease. He's 20 from 30. Playing well so far, so as I say, just a real feather in his cap, that 1000th run being passed in his 15th first-class match. He's had a tremendous season for a young player. And he's in now, is Scriven, and that is pulled. Short arm jab of a pull, really, by Finlay Bean. Now, I've said this loads of times this season. He's very strong either side of the wicket square. That seemed to be the way he scored the majority of his runs when he first came into the side, apart from the push and go stuff. He's since shown us that he can just as easily drive straight down the ground. We've already seen that today, and that's come out more so as the season has gone on, really. But you wouldn't want to pitch anything short either side because it will go. And that was a case in point. He's on to 24, 40 without loss. Scriven in again, that's better. Finlay Bean has to play from the crease and with respect drops it into the offside, fielded there by Sam Evans at cover. No run the square, now also beginning, Richard, to look back-endish as they do. Plenty of brown around from this distance, although plenty of green around on the strip itself.
But this is not the last game that will be played on the square, we've found out. There's a tournament, a Legends tournament, 11 days of it still to be played.
Here comes Scriven again, and Bean pushing back to him. No run, yeah, potential legendary commentator.
Starting next Saturday. India, Pakistan, Australia, England. I think 9 teams, I was told. So the square has a bit of work still to do here at the Uptonsteel County Ground, but the outfields have the weather hasn't been kind, but it's done the outfields a lot of good this year. There's some lovely green outfields.
And he comes again, and that is pulled by Finley Bean along the deck this time, straight to long leg, and just the 1 run. 41 without loss, and 1 remaining in the 10th here. So you wouldn't say that this pair have bowled badly, but they haven't been able to find a delivery to get through. Chris Wright's been a little bit too loose at times with Adam Lyth in particular, hence going for those 3 boundaries we talked about. But so far they lack penetration, having won the toss and put Yorkshire in on what feels like it was prepared as a result pitch. Oh, edge here, and it's bounced just short of first slip, as Richard called it, eagle eyes. So Adam Lyth survives on 16, but there you go, that's the first opportunity created by the ball, really, and he's died before he got to first slip, which is interesting.
It was a really good pickup low by Rishi Patel, sort of diving, falling to his right. Maybe take half a stride closer, but sort of picked it up on the half volley. He went at it quite hard there, Lyth, so it should have carried, but it didn't. So food for thought for the Leicestershire slippers, and of course the bowler as well. Right, 5 overs, none for 21 continues from the Bennett end. Round the wicket he bowls to Bean, who is defending. Straight delivery out into the offside. Curry again warms up even more vigorously, so presumably he might come on at this pavilion end. I'm not entirely convinced Tom Scriven is an opening bowler. He doesn't take his wickets half as often when he does open the bowling, if that makes sense. He tends to pick them up a little bit later in the innings. In goes Wright, a little bit too wide this time, and slightly short of a good length. Bean can and does leave safely. Leicestershire's interim head coach, or one of them, Alfonso Thomas, walks around the boundary in front of us in a well padded Leicestershire anorak. It's not cold out there, but it's not it is definitely autumnal. Summer hath gone. In goes Wright, and bowls. Bean drives very nicely for 4. Whether it was a touch square than he was punching it, I think that's one for the purists, but he got loads of it, lent into it, and no chance at all for Swindles at point to get anywhere across or close to the ball. He rehearses the drive a little bit wider. As I say, got plenty of it. Update coming from BBC Radio Leicester. He's moved on to 29, 45 now without loss. Might just get this delivery from Wright in, who runs in and bowls down the leg side. Patel's hands start to go into the air as Bean stepped across, tried to work it into the leg side, missed it, taken by Cox. And they've made a very good start, the visitors. Adam Lyth has 16. Finley Bean looks very good in going to 29, not out. 45 without loss in the 11th over. The pitch very green, which explains why Leicestershire captain Lewis Hill chose to bowl first after winning the toss, but it has played, as it often does here at the Uptonsteel County Ground, pretty well. The batter's been beaten a couple of times, but basically it is the batters who are in charge. Yorkshire 45 now without loss. Missed just that one delivery from right, which was blocked out into the offside by Finley Bean. Scriven has the ball in hand to do the polishing. The Leicestershire flag on the flagpole alongside the Geary bar is tattered. It has rather given up the ghost in the heavy winds that are blowing really from the south-southwest as right is in. Bowles Bean forces him off the back foot, but only as far as Swindles, who tumbles, having stopped the ball at backward point. End of the over. The Fox on the weather vane is swinging between the sort of south and actually sort of eastish at the moment, wind-wise. And that is definitely where the wind is coming straight across towards our commentary box from the Bennett end. End of the over, 45 without loss, Yorkshire after 11.
Yeah, it's going to be a change by the looks of things at this pavilion end. Tom Scriven being taken out of the attack, and Scott Curry is going to be bowler number 3 then for Leicestershire. Scriven having had 5 overs under his belt. Still 3 slips, in fact still the same field. And Adam Lyth, 16 not out, is on strike. Curry is going to come round the wicket to him, different to our previous bowler who was bowling over throughout. Adam Lyth pulls out of facing that delivery at the last moment. So a little practice run up for Scott Curry, who is certainly plenty tall enough, although maybe not Josh Hull sort of height. But leggy, here he comes. It's wide of off stump, not bowling leggies, but just a leggy figure. It's wide of off stump, and Adam Lyth leaves. So Adam Lyth 16, Finley Bean 29, 45 without loss in the 12th over. Going along at 4 and over quite comfortably at this stage. Still 42 overs and 5 balls scheduled to be played today. You'd have to say with light and weather around, not sure how likely the full Monty would be. As Adam Lyth pushes his latest Curry delivery into the offside.
He's 6'5", Scott Curry, if that, whereas young Hull is 6'7".
I think we know which row they'll be on the team photograph. Curry to Lyth, it's full and flicked off his legs, but straight to the man at mid-wicket. No run.
His nickname, you can have a reasonable stab at.
What, Scott Curry?
Think
something like
Cockney
Vindaloo.
rhyming. Yeah, you're in the right area. Ruby,
of course. Well, here's Ruby bowling to Budge, who is out, caught at second slip. A ball wide of off stump, angled in by Scott Curry. Adam Lyth flashes his bat at the pitch. Good job he didn't make connection there. And it was Louis Kimber who has taken the catch. It was quite a sharp chance as well. They're having to stand that little bit closer, I think. Adam Lyth will be disgusted with himself for getting out, having got a start and having a flash at a ball wide of off stump. He's gone. It's 45 for 1.
Smart catch, as you say, by Kimber. Sort of two-handed, rounded just above sort of stomach height, quite close to his chest, and he wasn't helped by the fact that it looked like Davis was actually diving across him slightly at third slip. Have another quick look at that one. Yeah, he was almost reaching for it to grab it out of Kimber's hands, but he wasn't quite quick enough. But it was slightly airy from Adam Lyth, who drags himself disappointed from the field and semi-responsible for his own departure, really.
And Curry, Ruby with an immediate impact. 16 from, I forget how many deliveries actually said that. 30. Yeah, be disappointed. 3-4s involved there for Adam Lyth. But he got going. Those 3-4s had all been the sort of shots that he plays when he's on song. And that's a pretty good start. I know that they've not routed the top order here, but 45 for 1. Just to see the back of Adam Lyth for just the 16 when he was giving off the signs that he was playing pretty well again. A boost to the hosts, who now have to try and find a way of getting rid of Shan Masood, who of course got a huge 100, almost a double last week, his first 100 since joining Yorkshire, 192. And Curry almost sneaks one through, and it doesn't look like, particularly given his 6'5", that bounced as Shan Masood was expecting at all. Just kept a little bit on the low side. And the Pakistani international, and he had to be very watchful there. The sort of delivery that really can take you by surprise first up. Final ball of this first Scott Curry over then. Wide of off stump, and Masood drives similar to that which Lyth had played earlier in the over, but gets this one wider outside third slip. Wasn't as aerial, but had it been in the direction of the fielder, it could have been a catch. As it turns out, it races away down to third man for 4. So Masood on 4, and Yorkshire 49 for 1 after 12, but just 1 or 2 danger signs in that previous over. And Scott Curry looking like he's changing the game from the pavilion end.
It was an airy shot, wasn't it, from Masood second up. Didn't have to go for that one, did, and it went through about 5th slip in the air. Slightly fortunate, and that 4th slip, Davis, who dived to his left, couldn't get a hand on it, is now going to replace Chris Wright from the Bennett end. Will Davis making, I think, his 4th appearance of the season in the county championship, that is. We'll confirm that. He's going to go round the wicket and bowls to Bean, who is waiting on the back foot. So that one comes in towards leg stump and just works it out towards mid-on, where Wright is the fielder. Yeah, well, this is actually his 3rd appearance, Will Davis. Yet to take a wicket in the county championship. He's only bowled 25 overs in the 2 other matches in which he participated. Perhaps he can break his duck today. In he goes and bowls. Bean is working that one away off his legs, and again timing it so sweetly. It's running away to the square leg boundary for 4. Davis has his hands on his head. He's not convinced that was where Bean was looking to hit the ball. And perhaps he was looking to hit it a little bit straighter than that, but it fairly whistled away across the edge of the square, down to the deep square boundary. He moves on to 33 and brings up the Yorkshire 50, 53 for 1.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with him. The way Finlay played it, it looked like he was trying to get it a bit straighter into the leg side, and it might have come off somewhere towards the inside edge of the bat.
But it's a seriously good inside edge. In goes Davis on off stump. Bean defends it out into the offside this time, where Swindles feels fairly raced away. Bats these days. What did your last bat cost?
Nothing. Made by my brother. He makes, well, he was making cricket bats. He's had a spell teaching, and he's back making cricket bats again now.
Davis is in, bowls, tucked off his legs. Bean works it wide of Wright, who moves across to his left, fields but not clean in. There was always going to be one. Anyway, Bean on to 34, 54 for 1. What would it have cost, or had he bought it?
I don't know, it was a quality bat, so by that comment, hundreds of pounds, I suppose, these days.
I was going to say that, yeah, 300 these days. People seem to think nothing of paying that sort of money. But if you get inside edges that fly across
Yeah.
the square leg like that one from Finley Bean, then many a batsman would say, yeah, it's worth it. Masood to face Davis for the first time. Davis is in, bowls. Masood is edging, but more deliberately this time. He knew what he was doing there. It went through fourth stroke fifth slip again, but it bounced well short, and it looked to be a sort of deliberate, just pushed forward and maybe angled back, got on top of the bounce. Was in the air for a while, but it would have been short of the fielder had he been there. He knew the fielder wasn't. Picks up another 4, this time much more legitimately. He moves on to 8, 58 for 1.
And it kind of feels like a typical first over that we often see in county cricket, where a bowler gets it wrong one side of the wicket and then overcompensates and goes the other side. So he's been flicked through square leg for 4 and now angled through third man for 4.
Davis bustling in, chest on, bowls straight on off stump, punched back towards him by Masood. Davis stops the ball in his follow through and then sort of hops around a bit as though it stung his right hand a little bit, and then takes 2 sweaters from umpire Pratt. Neil Pratt is standing at the Bennett end in the first half of the game. Umpire Bainton at this pavilion end. 58 for 1 after 13. Shan Masood has 8. Finley Bean has 34.
Because we all know the generally accepted line and length that you want a bowler, the seam bowler, top of off stump. But getting that right, sometimes you end up, if you get it wrong a couple of times early on, trying too hard and doing things that you didn't really want to do, it can make it harder for yourself to settle into a rhythm. Curry, who bowled a really good first over from this pavilion end, is in for his first ball there of his second over, and Finley Bean dealing with that with a push into the offside. Finley 34 off 45 now. As you heard, past 1,000 runs in first class cricket on reaching 4 in this innings. There's Curry bowling to him now, turning that one off his legs to mid-wicket. No run. He's fast approaching 900 runs for this season. In fact, just 8 more required. He'll be there. This is 18th first class innings of the season, just the 1 not out. Not easy is it to get those when you're up top. Here's Curry, and Bean solidly behind it, pushing back down the pitch towards the bowler, and there's no run. His conversion rate's pretty good, Richard. 300s and 250s this season. Certainly one of those 50s was that 90 odd last week. They weren't so far off converting that one.
He looks in pretty good form and order at the moment, for sure.
Here comes Curry again round the wicket. It's up there to drive, and Finley not quite timing that one maybe as he would have liked, but perfectly safe push to Lewis Hill. Some hardy souls away in the yellow seats to our right.
Yeah, extension Benno over there.
Here comes Curry again, past umpire Neil Bainton, very wide on the crease, but a bit leg stumpish in his delivery. It's too full as well, and once again picked off by Finley Bean. 38 to him now, and 62 for 1. And they look like they're going to learn the hard way in that respect with Finley. Short either side of the wicket or too full.
I was going to say Scott Curry bowled against Yorkshire in the game at York in the one-day cup for Hampshire, so shouldn't be entirely unfamiliar with the Yorkshire players.
Here he comes again, wide of off stump, and Finley Bean leaves. So 38 to him come the end of the over. 896 first class runs this season. Shan Masood on 8, 62 for 1. having seen 14 of the scheduled 54 overs for the day bowled so far, 40 remaining, and tea scheduled to be taken at 4 o'clock.
As the ground announcer reminds those in the seats, so 40 overs left to be bowled in theory today. Dodgy's pretty convinced we won't get them all. Actually, it's not too bad at the moment. The sort of heavy grey cloud is a little bit broken up at the moment as round the wicket comes Davis and bowls a good leave from Shan Masood. A few hands on Leicestershire heads out there, but knew exactly where his off stump was. A reminder, free entry here today. You can have your photograph taken with the Metrobank one-day punch bowl cup. As in goes Davis, bowls outside off stump, cut away stylishly. Well, almost in front of square, in fact, by Shan Masood. It wasn't quite a sort of back foot drive, it was a sort of, just fell slightly between the two, a cut and a back foot drive either way. Middled it beautifully out to the sort of cover boundary for 4. And he's progressed in 4s in his innings so far, Shan Masood, 3 of them in going to 12 off just 6 balls. Former pupil in this neck of the woods. In goes Davis, bowls to him, he blocks it out towards extra cover. He went to school at Stamford, which is only 30 or so miles away from Leicester, as did Josh Hull. Although the two won't have known each other, of course. In goes Davis, bowls, steered out past extra cover. I thought he might get there then. I think is it Scriven out there as he picks himself up at extra cover, reaching away to his right. It is Tom Scriven. But again, beautiful piece of timing, and the outfield is quick.
I mean, do you know what? That we've seen some cracking shots so far. The extra cover drive from Adam Lyth was a beaut earlier on, but that's just about as good as anything really, because he barely touches this, does he? He watches it all the way onto the bat, and just a little stab really into the offside, and it absolutely flew. That's a cracking effort from Shan Masood.
16, 4 times 4 for Shan Masood off just 8 balls, 70 for 1. Yorkshire flying here at Grace Road as in goes Davis and bowls. Masood covers up to that one, nice high right elbow as he defends firmly out to mid-off.
People keep saying to me that he's been a flop this year. He's not done as well as he should have done. He's averaging 68.25 from just 10 first class. Oh, this is his 10th first class knock for the county. I'm not quite sure where that comes from.
Davis bowls to him. He's a little bit squared up there. No, he says, as a thick outside edge skews out towards Scriven at extra cover. End of the over, an expensive one for Will Davis. He's bowled 2 overs and has none for 17 now. 70 for 1. The Yorkshire score. Masood 16. As I've been saying, he's faced 10 deliveries now. Been watching in admiration at the other end. 38 off 50.
Yeah, he's got obviously that 192 boosted his runs to plus 500 last week, but that's cricket, isn't it? Sometimes, you know, you kind of take the scores over the course of the season. He's had a 90 odd and an 80 odd. I accept he'd not made 100 before last week, and I think that was a disappointment to some. His season interrupted by some trips away to play for Pakistan. And he's certainly upset that he's not got in the side, or wasn't in the side for the Asia Cup, as Finley Bean flicks one off his legs down to long leg and will pick up 1. Robert
Coe on the stream. Are there ever any provisions to skip tea to get more cricket in the day?
Never heard of it.
No, I've watched days when players started sort of before what would have been tee, and they've just gone through on the basis that
a 2.5 hour session or something.
Yeah, exactly, but not if it's feasible.
Here's Scott Curry coming once again to Shan Masood. This one a little bit straighter than when he bowled at him that went for 4 in his previous over. And just hit to the onside of straight to mid-on. No run. You just say out of the 4 fours that Shan Masood has hit, that first one that went wide of third slip was the least accomplished and least confident stroke he's played so far. 71 for 1 though having been put in here, Yorkshire. Masood flicking off his legs, and again he pings that very nicely, but it's going to end up being his first scoring shot that doesn't go for 4 because they get back for 2. It's cut off down at long leg by Umar Amin. So Masood on to 18 in pretty quick time here, scoring at 150 in terms of strike rate. 73 for 1, partnership already worth 28 following the dismissal of Adam Lyth. If you're joining us more recently, the only man out so far. He was caught having a flash at one wide of off stump, well caught as well by Louis Kimber at second slip off Scott Curry, who's bowling here to Masood, who drives him into the offside, fielded nicely by Sam Evans at cover, because that was one of those sort of shots that was a bump ball and it was on its way down when it came to him. Could have yorked him, if you like, in the field, but he managed to get down well. And Curry in again, wide of off stump, and Masood plays all round one here. There's an appeal for LBW. On the angle, you'd have to say you feel like it's probably going down. Not sure if that's why Neil Bainton has dismissed the appeal, but he's given it not out for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, judging by Neil Bainton's hand signals, that's exactly why he gave it not out. Indicated it was from round the wicket going on down the leg side. Didn't look a bad shot.
No, he just caught Shan Masood slightly off balance. Curry in again. This one, oh, beautiful shot. That is a superb shot by Shan Masood. Half volley, wide of off stump, and he's pierced the gap between mid-off and extra cover. And that is a tremendous blow for 4 runs. 22 to him. 77 for 1 after 16 now. Yorkshire going along at nearly 5 and over here.
Was out there to be driven away, but put it away in their classic left-hander style. Masood. Wind, if anything, continues to strengthen. It really is. Going very strongly out there. Umpires leaning into it, and the heavy bails will definitely be on. I don't know whether I have heavy bails anymore. Whether they're a thing. Enjoyed the. I must admit, the lighting up bails at the One Day Cup final. They help.
When you get to your
mind seeing those in
when
the,
you get
in
to
the
your
county
age, lad.
championship.
Aye.
I must admit, added to the fun. Hilly's taking his time to set his field with Davis here.
Maybe we should mic up all the fielders, my friend, and so when if it goes to Lewis Hill, he can say, "Rich, it's Lewis fielding this one."
That day is probably not so far away. He's going to send Harry Swindles back from point to sweeper, really, sort of between point and cover in front of the manual scoreboard on the Milligan Road side of the ground. In goes Davis and bowls to Bean, who's hardly seen much of the strike of late. Strokes the delivery out towards right at mid-on, and very much a defensive position. Harry Swindles now. There for the bad ball, arguably. Perhaps to encourage the drive. Curry takes a step closer at sort of gully stroke 4 slip as Davis comes in and then bowls onto the leg stump of Bean, who just turns the bat face on the ball, works it down towards deep backward square. Evans runs in from wide long leg, deep backward square position and fields, and takes 1 bean, moves on to 40. 78 for 1. So he just checks his guard with umpire Pratt. Ready to go now. As Davis is in, bowls straight, and all the time in the world, Masood, as he leans forward into that one and then just turns the bat face. In defence out towards mid-on it goes. Amin walks in almost from mid-wicket to pick up before throwing it to right at mid-on. Update coming from BBC Radio Leicester after this delivery from Will Davis, who is in, bowls. Masood is turning it nicely off his legs down towards Evans in that deep backward square position. Takes 1, moves on to 23. Hello, it's still blowing very hard, but as you say, the cricketers are still out there. And Leicestershire have picked up their first wicket of the Yorkshire innings. Adam Lyth was well caught by Louis Kimber at second slip off the bowling of Scott Curry for 16, 45 for 1 at that stage, but the Yorkshire skipper Shan Masood has come in and played really nicely and going to 23 after 17 balls. Finlay Bean is also batting very well. It was until he played and missed at that one. He's moved on to 40 or 53 balls, 79 for 1 Yorkshire after being put in by Leicestershire, unsurprisingly, given the greenness of the pitch, but by and large it has played pretty well. The Foxes will be hoping for at least 1 more wicket before tea. There are another 37 overs left to be bowled today. Yorkshire have made a good start. They're 79 for 1. That sounded like the living years, the start of the living years.
It did.
In goes Davison, goes past the outside edge, there's an appeal for a catch behind, he's gone. Bean has gone. Bean does not look convinced. He looks back a little disconsolately at umpire Pratt. His hand went down towards his pad there. Now whether he's feels that it just clipped the pad rather than the bat, not sure, but Davis has his first class wicket of the season. Bean, who hasn't seen much of the strike recently, goes for 40. He's not particularly happy about it, but who knows whether that's just because it was a decent delivery that caught the outside edge or what his thinking is. 79 for 2.
No, it's the first time I can recall, there may have been other incidents, but it's the first time I can recall Finlay kind of doing anything like that. He's not really given to that sort of response, but it did look like he was touching his back pad flap, didn't it? His left leg pad flap, as if to say, I've not got anything on that. And it was the pad it's hit umps, but he's not going to change his decision without recourse to technology that we don't have at these sort of grounds. So that is unlucky if that's the case on Finlay Bean. And it will say that he's been caught by Ben Cox off the bowling of Will Davis in the book.
James Wharton comes out to join Shan Masood at the crease. Masood came to meet Wharton and he's having a long chat as it was the last ball of the over and it'll be Masood who's facing.
So Curry just waits for Shan Masood to get himself mentally ready for this delivery. 79 for 2. Curry around the wicket, drifts one down the leg side. Did Masood get anything on that, or has he missed it completely? Now, I had a flick at it, but it's 4 byes.
That's tough on the keeper.
It is, isn't it?
No chance
whatsoever. Angled in from really wide on the crease, round the wicket, right arm to left hand. It's already, it's got to be 7 or 8 inches past leg stump as it goes by Shan Masood. And then put the angle on that as to when it goes past the keeper. Ben Cox, and having just taken a catch, it's kind of a bit like a slap back in the face, isn't it, that one? In he comes again, wide of off stump this time, and driven not dissimilar to the one he drove in the previous over for 4, but this time a little bit closer to Sam Evans, and he does the fielding. Finley Bean, by the way, caught Cox Bowl Davis for 40 off 55 deliveries, and that included 7 4s, and it was shaping up into another really good Finley Bean knock on a green pitch, which, having said that, hasn't been doing all sorts, and it's going to do enough here to bring Shan Masood some more runs. Not sure if he's going to have the legs to make the boundary through extra cover this. No, not quite. Lewis Hill just reading it in, but they're back for 3. And Masood certainly timing it really well out there at the moment, as was Finley Bean. So yeah, he's going to be disappointed. He winds up his first innings in this match with waiting for laptop to update, with 898 runs to his name, so just fell short of the 900 mark. 49.88 is average as well, so just below the 50. But doesn't take anything away from the fact that he's had a cracking season, as Curry switches to over the wicket to bowl up the right-handed James Wharton for the first time, but then sprays one down the leg side to the right-hander this time. So Curry and Davies, the 2 wicket takers. Lyth for 16 and Bean for 40, the 2 dismissed batters. And James Wharton in at number 4, solidly behind this Scott Curry delivery and pushing to Lewis Hill at mid-on. I said earlier that Yorkshire have got an opening partnership. They've kind of been searching for a settled one for a little while, but they really have got it together, these 2. The experience of Adam Lyth and the youth and abilities of Finley Bean. 45 today, but there have been several century partnerships this season, and Scott Curry has just bowled one wide of James Wharton's off stump. That's the second one today which didn't bounce as much as it first appeared it might in terms of the length that it was bowled at, and Wharton left it, and it can't have been too far from off stump. Both those deliveries have been bowled by Scott Curry, both at this end, and one from either side of the wicket. So 86 for 2 after 18. And as I said, we're playing till 4, so what are we going to get in between now and then? About another 6, 7 overs maybe. We'll see if there's a token over of something else before tea.
Hill doesn't tend to do things like that, really. He sticks to what he knows, and the only option in that respect, I suppose, would be someone like Louis Kimber, in the absence of Ackerman, who we are told is ill. Round the wicket comes Davis, bowls to Masood. Lovely delivery that bounced, leaves him, goes past the outside edge.
It's been all seam so far, Rich, hasn't it? They've been playing for 1 hour and 17 minutes to bowl just 18 overs, so 6 by tea might be just pushing it a bit. Might be more like 5 between now and tea.
Yeah. So assuming we resume at 4:20 on the dot, well, it is going to be a 6:30 finish if we get there at the earliest. In goes Davis, bowls. Masood is wristily turning it out, but only as far as Umar Amin at mid-wicket, and you heard the call of no from Shan Masood. 86 for 2. Hill has just got a little bit of sawdust that he's put down on one of the footholds just short of the crease for Davis, who may have slipped a bit, felt the earth move. In he goes and bowls onto the legs of Masood, who is trying to turn it into the leg side, almost gets a leading edge on it, goes along the ground back towards Davis. He rehearses the elegant as ever shot through the leg side that he was trying to play.
Ben Nielsen says, purely based on Yorkshire's position in the table and the need for a plethora of bonus points, I'd have opted to bat first just to try to get 110 overs in and hope for quick wickets when bowling.
Davis is in. This one is worked away through the leg side. Has a bit of work to do to get to the ball. Evans does so, scampers up the rope, gets his throw away, but Masood thought there was always going to be two there, and he was right. Turned and made his ground comfortably enough. Moves on to 28, 88 for 2.
Again,
Based on
timed
the
it
need
well.
For bonus points, he thinks that Leicester should have batted.
No, he thinks Yorkshire should have batted.
Yorkshire?
Oh, would have. Yeah, should have batted if they'd won the toss.
Well, I was going to say it
makes no difference.
Yeah.
Anyway, no.
In goes Davis, bowls on off stump. Nicely played in defence. Weight on the front foot, out towards mid. Off where Hill feels. Scriven is doing his warming up routine, his sort of bouncy warming up routine. So you imagine bowling into the wind. You don't want to be bowling many more than 4 overs on the bounce.
He's had enough commentating into the wind.
None of the bowlers have actually pulled out of a run yet, have they? Sort of their run up yet. In goes Davis and bowls, leaning forward with an angle bat. It's Masood steering it into that big gap in the point area out towards the sweeper. Swindles. That is the end of Davis's over, his 4th, 1 for 22. His figures, as ever, he's sort of improved a little as he's got into his spell. 89 for 2 is the score. Morton, who's only faced the 3 deliveries, has yet to score. Masood, still scoring it better than a runner ball, has 29 off 26.
Yeah, and I think those Yorkshire supporters who've been kind of scratching their heads a bit and doubting their captain in terms of his abilities with the bat, having not kind of taken a game by the scruff of the neck, and that's maybe a criticism. They could have levelled at him during the season in the matches he's played. He obviously tried his best to do that with his 190 odd last week and with a couple of other innings he's played. But for me, watching him play every week, he's definitely playing much more fluently now than he has been on quite a lot of occasions. Change of bowling at this pavilion end. And we're going to see Tom Scriven back on after Scott Curry had bowled a few, and he's bowling full there with Ben Cox standing up to the stumps again, pushed into the offside, no run. But yeah, just sometimes things are not easy in cricket to put your finger on in terms of what you see out there, but he definitely feels like he's playing with more fluency. His timing of the ball in this innings so far, for example, has been, I think, probably better than in most of his innings, including that 192 last week. He just gets a slight leading edge on this one as he's thinking about whipping it away into the leg side. No run. But last week, look, you don't want to take anything away from anybody who scores 192 runs in a game of professional cricket. I'll say that before I say this, which is that it was a feather bed of a pitch and batting sort of got easier. It was probably as difficult as it was in the match for quite a lot, the first half of that knock that he played, and it was superb. But it was a very easy pace pitch and certainly didn't look anything like this did. When he got 90 odd against Middlesex in the last of the one-day cup matches, you could see his timing went while he was out in the middle. He's flicked this one to the leg side of straight with Scriven coming round the wicket, switching from over to round to the left-hander. But he went out in the one-day cup match, he raced to sort of 40 odd 50, playing really nicely, and then the longer he went on, the more sketchy he was getting with his timing, and he did say that in his post-match interview that day. So he's kind of occasionally batted himself out of touch when he's been in the middle. Playing pretty well so far here, 29 off as many deliveries. Scriven trying to take his wicket though, and that is flicked away down to long leg, just straying onto leg stump, and he gets through for another one. Takes him to 30, 90 for 2. And I obviously doing the rounds. I don't know if you saw him get runs last year when he was with Derbyshire. Did he get one of his big scores against Leicestershire? Yeah.
200.
Yeah. Here comes Scriven again. Oof, James Wharton not timing it quite as well as Shan Masood, because he's just got a thick inside edge past his stumps. Got away with one there as James to get off the mark. 91 for 2. So you've seen him in probably better form than I've seen him in really so far. But he really does start feel like he started to time it properly last week, and then so far here today. Then you begin to understand the purring that we used to get from Fletch about how good he was when he was playing for Derbyshire last season. Wide of off stump this delivery, and he's had a go at getting his hands through it, but there was a bit of skip off the pitch. Nicely tidied up by Ben Cox. And the end of Scriven's over. That's 6 overs, no maidens, none for 22 for him. Having opened, of course, from this pavilion end. Wharton on 1, Masood on 30, 91 for 2, and 16 minutes before tea and buns.
You want buns as well after your American cheese. You knew? Oh no, you went for the apple strudel. With custard.
I can't manage this cake. It's
and a bread and butter cake.
It's lovely, but I'll have to. It'll be a progressive eat, I think.
Definitely need a cup of tea though. Will Davis is going to continue over the wicket. He's got a right-hander to bowl at, I think, for the first time. Sussex seem to have about three or four left-handers, all called Tom at the start of their at the top of their innings. Last week, in goes Davis and bowls. Good leave from Wharton, taken by Cox, leaning to his left, hence the oohs and the ahs from Davis and the slip fielders. It wasn't too far away. Little knot of people gathered outside the Friends of Grace Road there. 3:45, they are still open. As Davis turns.
Magnificent piece of cake.
Good. In goes Davis and bowls. Wharton is advancing down the pitch, and there's appeal for a leg before, but he'd gone sort of so far, was trying to work the ball into the leg side. It also sounded a little bit woody to me, but either way, umpire Pratt wasn't interested in the appeal.
Not saying he'd gone a long way, but I think he played that shot from Rutland.
He was 3 or 4 good paces down the track, wasn't he? He looks to have got sort of a little bit harder batting out there, sometimes the way of it. As Davis is in and bowls, that's better from Wharton, who again, a couple of steps down before stroking it defensively out into the offside with a little bit of a flourish. Lifted his right foot as he played that shot. 91 for 2 remains the score.
What's the clip we're going to hear on radio cricket commentaries for years on BBC Radio Leicester when you won on Saturday? What was the winning line?
In goes Davis and bowls. Fuller this time, and looking to drive Wharton, and does get plenty of it, punches it out, but only as far as mid-off on this occasion.
Did you have a carefully scripted ad lib?
No, it wasn't because it was so unexpected, really. But you know, Hampshire needed just 11 off the last 2 overs, and should have got there comfortably. And I don't think until the sort of 3 balls from home, when Dawson was caught attempting the scoop for some reason, caught down at long leg, scooped it straight to Chris Wright off Josh Hull, instead of just punching it away into the offside, picking up 1 or 2. Then suddenly he realised, oh. And at that stage, Kevin James and I were sort of taking a ball each, if you know what I mean, so it still wasn't clear even then. As in goes Davis, bowls, and Wharton is not sure where that has gone as it comes back into him. Thick inside edge, he looks back at his stumps. In fact, it's rolling out towards mid-wicket, but at the moment, Wharton not comfortable out there. He's on 1 off 9.
I think he was in Derbyshire playing that one.
He's moved around a bit in the crease, hasn't he?
I'd have been all over that one with something like that's a hull of a last over or something like that. fantastic Mr. Fox, whatever it could have been, you know, something along those lines. You've got to get him out there when you get the opportunity.
Davis is in. Wharton leaves and is bowled. It came back in, and it is actually the middle stump that is leaning back, the top of middle stump. So that is not, by any standards, a good leave. Wharton had been in all sorts of bother really out there, just was completely ill at ease. He was moving around up and down the wicket in his crease, around, just trying to find some sort of a timing, and he looks back at his stump somewhat nonplussed, but it did come back. But goodness me, when it hits the top of middle, it is not a good leave. He goes bowled for 1 off 10 and a bonus point for the Foxes. Yorkshire 91 for 3.
Let's have a look at the replay, Rich. For those who are watching the streaming, you'll get this now. For those who are not, well, he's just not got anywhere near across to cover it, has he? He's only gone. It's a half-hearted leave in a sense that he's just gone half forward with his pad. He did jag back a bit, but yeah, very strange little knock, if you want to call it that, really, from James Wharton this time. He looked in discomfort from pretty much the word go. Got an inside edge past his stumps from the other end off Scriven, and then 3 balls in the in that over, which is now complete. Yeah, he was advancing down the pitch, trying to gate any movement, and eventually chose to play the leave. He got so confused with the situation. So he'll have better days. He's had better days, and I'm sure there'll be more to come. But today was not James Wharton's day. Bowled by Davies for 1 off 10, as Richard says, 91 for 3. And that was the final ball of the 21st over. So George Hill is the new man at the crease for Yorkshire. And if Shan Masood has been finding his touch of late, George also feels like he's been playing a little more fluently. We'll see. Suddenly started to look a bit more difficult out there. Maybe that's a comment on the bowlers. Scriven is in, and that's thuds into the thigh pad of Shan Masood. Drops into the leg side, no run. It could be more of a comment on the bowlers than the pitch, couldn't it? That possibly, Richard.
It could, yep. Sometimes taking a little bit of the pace out of the attack, in as much as there is any, with Wright. Scriven, when he does open the bowling, tries to push it through a little bit more than he does when he's bowling in the sort of later in the innings, as here. Whoa! Yeah,
loses some debris off the bottom of his boot. I think it was Scriven who was in and bowling to Masood, who pushed it into the offside there. There was no run.
Yes, something fairly hefty flew into the air. It must have just been a bit of, as you say, compacted mud or something off his spikes. Umar Amin has bowled a couple of loosenesses. He has bowled a few. He has picked up a wicket for Leicestershire, sort of little dibbly-dobbly seamers.
Scriven very wide again, angled into Masood, who turns it to mid-on. No run. Well, the wind doesn't look to have troubled the players themselves too much out there in the middle, you'd have to say. It certainly troubled the officials beforehand because they didn't fancy starting in it. And to be fair, the ground staff did a tremendous job getting the covers off without sailing away, without taking flight in the end. It was almost kite-like as Masood does that short arm jab of a punch that he has into the offside. It went straight to cover when it was fielded by Umar Amin, who's now in that position. No run. Still 3 slips in place. Still Ben Cox standing up to Scriven. Having got to 45 without taking a wicket, Derbyshire now chipping away at Yorkshire first time around, having put them in.
Who are?
Leicestershire, Derbyshire. Did I say Derbyshire for some reason? I think it was Shan Masood going through the head at the other end, who's flicked and missed at one, and there's no run. Because if I didn't say Nottinghamshire, I would have been barred from this commentary box for life. That's the seat, by the way, moving, folks, if you can hear. It's not my stomach rumbling after the large amount of greens on the plate involved in that salad. Certainly was leafy. And here's Scriven once again. Masood flicks off his legs and will pick up a single, taking on Will Davis there and winning the race. So George Hill will be watching on from the other end again, hasn't yet faced a delivery. Masood 31.92 for 3, and we have just 6 minutes to go before the lunch break, so we'll probably get 2 more in. James Green says, do I take it? We do not think it will spin. Looking at the side, thought would be no play. Looking at early photos you posted, do you think we will play in October next year? Anything's possible at the moment in terms of scheduling. We might play an indoor tournament, sports hall, cricket.
Yeah. You never quite know what is planned, but no, not in October. So Davis, 2 for 22, his first 2 first-class wickets of the season.
Was the Bob Willis Trophy not in October that season? Mind you, it was COVID, wasn't it?
In he goes and bowls down the leg side. Masood tries to help it on its way, doesn't get anything on it, taken by Cox running across to his right.
Did the first final take place first few days of October?
Might I know we weren't involved.
We started so late because of the COVID issues.
Davis bowls. Masood is working off his legs. On this occasion, it's that little bit straighter out towards mid-wicket. Umar Amin comes jogging into field and underarms the ball to mid-on, where Curry, I beg your pardon, right is the fielder. Curry's still at third slip. Players' whites and sweaters fluttering away in the strong wind. Very annoying dog rattling away down below us. Not one of the Welsh Springer Spaniels of Brunties, I know that for sure. In goes Davis and bowls outside off stump. Hill leaves, which as Wharton found is a slightly dangerous game, but Hill much more aware where his off stump is. Wanders down and prods at the pitch, as much for form as anything, I think. Kimber at second is standing a long, long way ahead of first slip. Curry more or less alongside him at third as Davis is in. Bowls, Hill drives, but doesn't put his full weight into the shot. Steers it out to Umar Amin at extra cover.
Yeah, he watched it well there, George, didn't he? Having seen what he's seen from James Wharton, I guess there might be just a, from a right-hander's point of view, a little bit of apprehension out there.
Davis bowls, Hill is forward. Good length delivery. Head over that ball as he drops it out into the offside. Picked up by Evans running in and across from point. Masood picks up a little bit of dirt or something from the pitch and throws it away as Davis comes in and bowls to Hill. That one does come back a bit, but Hill equal to it. Looks solid in defence, leaning forward, blocking it back down the pitch on the offside, and it is the end of Will Davis's 6th over. 2 for 23. His figure's 93 for 3. The score. George Hill is yet to get off the mark. He's only faced the 4 deliveries. Shan Masood, who had been scoring at much better than a runner ball for much of the early part of his innings, is settled in now. He's on 32 off 39.
Yep, and we'll be on strike. Just this 1 over to go before the tea break then. 4 o'clock scheduled. 2 minutes to showing on the scoreboard clock. Very informative scoreboard it is here too. wish they were all like that around the many grounds. There's a good delivery first up from Scriven, just as Shan Masood groping at one outside off stump. Don't tell me he's playing himself out of form again in the middle.
Now they redesigned it at the behest of the Leicestershire scorer Paul Rogers. He wanted it sort of laid out slightly differently, and it's pretty good, I think. No?
I think everything you want, I think, is on there. Right down to the who won the toss. As Scriven is in, and that's nicely flicked this time off the hip by Shan Masood, who ran the first one but then realised there was going to be no chance of a second. And he'll settle with that one, taking him to 33 off 41. So he was scoring at 150 early doors, wasn't he? 18 off 12, I think he had at one stage. And he's had to work harder, which I think is because the Leicestershire bowlers have collectively managed to find a bit more consistency. George Hill yet to get off the mark from the 4 deliveries that he's faced, and he may face 4 more here in this over, we'll see, because that's all there are left before the tea break. Scriven switches back to over the wicket to the right-hander, who's flicking off his legs here. He might have got it fine enough to make the boundary. No, not quite. And an interesting stop out there keeps them to 1. George off the mark.
He too slipping at the end of his run.
Simply light-wise, it probably feels better than it did at an earlier stage, doesn't it, at the moment? But
you can see the shadows from the players, from the floodlights, but they're not as quite as pronounced.
Given that they've been playing an hour and 40 minutes and they've only gotten 24 overs here, you can't see anything like all the overs in the day being played, as Masood flicks that into the leg side and they pick up 1 more. So 30 overs remaining, so that's going to be, at this pace, the best part of 2 hours cricket after tea, which is 20 past 4 onwards. Given the light conditions, the floodlights already on, you sort of find it highly unlikely that we're going to be going until something like 20 past 6 here.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine.
Scriven to Hill. Has he got a nick on this one? He has. Just pushing half forward, really, George, and didn't really go at the shot with any conviction. Not sure if he was trying to leave it in the end, but he's just got a little tickle through to Ben Cox, and Yorkshire have now lost a 4th wicket, and that's a big wicket for Leicestershire because it will induce the tea break with 1 ball remaining in the session. So that will be tea. Masood not out 34, George Hill gone for 1 from 6 deliveries, and then 96 for 4 having been put into bat when Lewis Hull won the toss.
And having also been 45 without loss, with Lyth and Finlay Bean, Adam Lyth and Finlay Bean, that is, playing pretty nicely at the top of the order. But 4 wickets have now fallen as 41 more runs have been added. So Leicestershire will feel, and Lewis Hill, the captain in particular, the decision to bowl first was justified. Here comes an update for BBC Radio Leicester. And then we'll have a cup of tea. Yeah, they have indeed. The decision to bowl first didn't necessarily look as though it was going to be the right one when Yorkshire raced to 45 without loss, but 4 wickets have fallen as Yorkshire have added another 41 to that score. Adam Lyth was caught at second slip off the bowling of Scott Curry for 16. Finlay Bean caught by the wicketkeeper Ben Cox off the bowling of Will Davis for 40. James Wharton was bowled by Davis, leaving a delivery which came back and hit the top of middle. And just as you come to me, George Hill was caught behind off a delivery from Tom Scriven that just left him a little bit and took the edge. 96 for 4 then at tea. If the light remains good enough, and that is highly questionable, we'll have another 30 overs after tea, but should get a fair proportion of them, and Leicestershire will be quite pleased with the position they've bowled themselves into.
Derby, and the only other game, Leicestershire. They just started Leicestershire 17 without loss against Fulham.
And as I mentioned before the update, we'll now go and make ourselves a cup of tea, and Jonathan and myself will be back with you in around about 15 minutes' time.
Ooh. Do you want a cup of tea?
the onside, and thought for a minute that had snuck through towards the stumps. End of the over, the 26th of the Yorkshire first innings. 100 for 5 is the score. 4 to Tattersall. Revis yet to get off the mark. Streaming guys are on it, as they say, at the moment. The sound on the stream, that is, and hopefully it'll be back with you before long. Update coming from BBC Radio Leicester as Revis leaves that one from outside off stump from Chris Wright. Again, a little bit of shape back into the right-hander, but far too wide to really threaten the stumps. It would have had to have been an extraordinary delivery. In goes Wright and bowls and driven for a couple. They've had a pretty good afternoon session, really, by and large. Dale didn't start particularly well. They won the toss, chose to bowl first with the pitch looking pretty green, and the Yorkshire openers did well. They went on to 45 without loss, and they scored pretty quickly as well. But since then, the Foxes bowlers have struck back and struck back hard. They've picked up 5 Yorkshire first innings wickets, and the score's only gone on to 103. And those 5 wicket takers, Chris Wright, he was the last. He had the Yorkshire captain, Shan Masood, who was playing very nicely and going to 34 before tea. The first ball he received after tea pinned him leg before. There's been a wicket for Tom Scriven, 2 for Will Davis, and 1 for Scott Curry. 103 for 5 then. Yorkshire, if Leicestershire can continue to exploit the conditions as well as they have been, they can be hoping to bowl Yorkshire out tonight. John Tattersall is 4 not out, Matt Revis is 3 not out, but at the moment, Leicestershire on top.
Which inevitably means 150 unbroken partnership for the
Absolutely.
6th wicket by the close of play. We say these things, don't we?
Absolutely does. They'll do well to put up 150. Apologies for the audio issues. Fox's TV say it has now been sorted. It's been switched back on.
That's good to hear.
Wright is in, bowls. Tattersall, no big stride. He's not a big man, as I say. Just leans forward on off stump, blocks it out into the offside. There's no run.
Richard Levin says, I know you don't do the stream, but no sound since tea. I don't understand why you're telling me then, Richard.
Well, he hoping that you could pass on the information, but yeah, we were aware, and we have hopefully sorted it. Wright is in. Oh, bowls. Tattersall leaves, and that one does come back in, and is taken by Cox. Well, reaching to his left, not just to his left, reaching to his left. So, well, a good leave by Tattersall. Knaresborough man. Same school as Ed Barnes, King James's.
Yep, just near the cricket club.
As in goes Wright and bowls. That one goes straight on. Tattersall leaves. There is no run.
So Johnny, I think, learned his cricket at Knaresborough CC and then has since been associated with York. Well, they were for long enough, different leagues. Knaresborough moving out of the Edel Wharfdale League, in which they'd been for many years in recent times. And Scriven going to continue from this pavilion end of the ground then. It is still quite warm out there, isn't it, when you go outside, Rich? It's not a cold September day by any stretch. Still fairly mild. But just slightly on the gloomy side, and obviously that very hefty breeze. 103 for 5. Scriven in, wide of off stump. Revis leaves.
A certain amount of unhappiness from Yorkshire followers on the stream about the Masood leg before decision. We'll have a few looks at the replay.
3 slips in place. Still a ring field. Leicestershire, well, why not, on the attack. Doing it pretty well at this moment in time, having seen Yorkshire 45 without loss at one stage. Scriven in, and a nice straight blade from Matthew Revis. Pushed into the offside. And again, no run, so these two, well, as you'd expect, they're going to have to try and consolidate here for a while. Just take a bit of time out of the game, have a good look. And then hope after all of that there's not a ball with their name on it.
Conditions are better, aren't they? It's the wind isn't quite as strong. There's a bit of light around. It's just improved a bit post tee.
In comes Scriven again. Straight delivery, flicked into the leg side by the tall figure of Matthew Revis. Lewis Hill giving chase will pull that in 3 yards or so short of the boundary rope, wide of long on, and Revis doubles his score then, moves on to 6. 106 for 5. A pair of them faced, well, double figures in deliveries now. Tattersall with 11. He's back on strike. And Scriven leaves our combox behind and heads off in and bowls now. Tattersall, lovely straight blade, and strokes that as much as anything up to Lewis Hill at mid-on. No run. A few cakes and coffee's been enjoyed at the tea break down to the right. Not just by Ken Code, but 1 or 2 others besides. A bit of a queue formed in there. Just got to take your sustenance on board, haven't you, at the breaks, every available opportunity, Richard. As Tattersall drives, taking one hand, his bottom hand off the bat there, up to mid-off, no run. Knowing you, you'd probably have been on some, what was it, handful of nuts, something like that, tea.
Cup of tea.
Cup of tea.
That was fine. That was fine.
Out running tonight?
I think it's Zwifting tonight. It's the Turbo Trainer. Zwift is a bicycle program.
Oh, right, okay.
A lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Is that at home, or is that you go somewhere for that? At home, okay. Ball short of length, wide of off stump here. It's a good attempt at fielding that by Sam Evans at point with the dive, because Johnny Tattersall really did time it, pinged it in that direction. And it's saved 2, because I think it was undoubtedly boundary bound. They've got back for 2. So Tattersall on to 6, 108 for 5 after 28. And so, in playing terms, we're only just past the halfway point of the day. The 54 overs allocated. Jeff Long, good afternoon to you. He's emailed in on BBC West Yorkshire Sport at gmail.com and said, "Hi, has a second division team ever provided the first 4 batsmen in an England side? In England's last match it happened." Well, yes then.
We haven't had second division teams for that long, relatively speaking, have we? But I know what, yeah, point taken. How long have we had 2 divisions in the game? I don't know.
Long time, 25 years probably.
Right is in from the Bennett end. Bowls to Revis, who drives the half volley to the extra cover boundary for 4. Right turns. He knew his fate. I suspect almost as soon as he saw it floating up towards Revis. Big man, powerful man, leant out and connected very cleanly. Wasn't going to miss out on that occasion, and he moves into double figures on to 10, 112 for 5. Keeping the 3 slips in though, of course, Hill. 112 for 5, still pretty much on top. Nice shot though from Revis. Been some nice fours hit today. In goes right, bowls to him, too wide, and swings on, or at least it goes on with the arm. A little bit further away. Revis leaves. Definitely has, the wind has finally dropped a little. Probably can hear in the effects mic, or the fact that you probably can't hear in the effects mic as much tell you that it has dropped. You can conditions much more pleasant as a consequence. Right is in. Revis leaves, stays low, threatens to come back but doesn't really. And again, a perfectly safe leave from Revis. Tattered, unfortunately. Leicestershire flag on the flagpole by the Geary bar is not standing out as horizontally as it did throughout the morning and indeed much of the afternoon. Fluttering now. Away to the northeast, the wind coming from the southwest as in goes right and bowls on off stump. Revis solidly forward. Out into the offside to Umar Amin. Played very nicely at Sussex, Umar. Going to 90, what did he get in the end? Looks back through his notes. 94. As right is in and bowls. Revis a little more uncertain on that occasion. Wasn't quite sure whether to go forward or back. Ended up doing neither really, waiting for it to a certain extent and bunting it down the pitch on the onside.
Seems that Richard Levin is well, despite my Saki comment, he says. Well, I think he walked onto that one. I know you don't do the stream, but it's not working. There's no sound on it.
Right is in. Bowls! That's an appeal for leg before. Looked like an inside edge onto the pad. From my angle, right was absolutely certain. It looked like it was going on to hit the stumps, but I thought it was inside edge and pad. And inside edge first. And let us see what Neil Pratt tells. Well, guess what Neil Pratt tells Chris Wright. Both these umpires are sort of seem prepared to explain their decisions, which always, you would think, help. Unless it's blatantly wrong.
Yeah, I know you thought that was out, but I really rather thought it wasn't, because
Yes.
actually it was pitching outside leg and missing all three stumps, but other than that it was quite close. Yeah, I think
Inside edge onto
yeah, I think so.
bottom of the pad, I think.
It was, to be fair, it looked otherwise like it was a good shout, didn't it? Might have been hitting the leg
Otherwise, yeah,
stump.
it looked like it was out.
So we have the continued presence of Tom Scriven at the pavilion end, and with Ben Cox standing up. Johnny Tattersall back in his crease, of course. Counterpart of Ben Cox, just pushing that one into the offside. And no run.
There's some really seriously philosophical Yorkshire followers on the stream. They were saying, even if Masood's decision was questionable, we've had a lot of good decisions go our way in recent games, so said it evens out, which doesn't
Really?
which is admirably philosophical, really.
Yes, Scriven again, and Tattersall gone now. Caught at first slip by Rishi Patel. That's a good catch, comfortably made it look. And Johnny Tattersall with an angled bat to a delivery wide of off stump.
Poor shot, wasn't it?
It wasn't the best to have a go at. I'm sure he's well aware as he walks off at 6 from 16 deliveries for Johnny Tattersall. 112 for 6. That 6-wicket partnership yielding just the 14 runs, and into the 30th over. Yorkshire in plenty of trouble here first time around.
He will surely be disappointed with that shot. I think he was actually trying to sort of late cut it as much as anything, but 3 slips behind. And
His foot movement is forward, and he's gone half forward with his front foot, but straight down the pitch, and then played wide of his body. So I guess just that element of control is lost slightly, isn't it? And if there is the slightest bit of nip, the edge of your bat could come into play, and that's what it was. It wasn't wide enough to play a genuine square cutout, was it?
No. And in the end, it almost looked as though he was giving Patel sort of catching practice, but unfortunate because he'd made a decent start. 6 runs, not that many, but he'd faced 16 balls with some aplomb. But he goes. Now, Ben Mike comes to the crease with, is it fair to say, JD, something to prove to the Yorkshire supporters.
I think that's very fair to say, yeah. I think something to prove not only to the Yorkshire supporters, but something to prove to himself, really.
Yeah.
That's the key thing. It's not really about what he's proving to anybody else, but to prove to himself. I had a chat with him after one of the one-day games that he played. Had he played in? He was certainly in the squad, because I wouldn't have been chatting to him otherwise. He was down at Chelmsford. We walked off to the shop together after the game, and he said, you know, he doesn't want to be pigeonholed as a white ball player. He wants and feels he's got the ability to play red ball cricket, so he's getting an opportunity here to try and show more than he did in his one opportunity last year when he came on loan, of course, before the end of the season. And he proved to be fairly expensive with the ball at the Oval, but I think there was probably quite a lot of element of you know, signing for the club and wanting to really prove himself and all of that. Probably put far too much pressure on himself first time around. And he's been kind of hot and cold in white ball cricket. He'll have a dream over and then a not a great over and then a dream over, and then, you know, it's a bit like that, all or nothing type of thing. So we'll find out here a little bit more, perhaps. He's getting his red ball chance and he's facing Tom Scriven, and he's pushing half forward at this one, drops it into the leg side, and there's no run. We always hark back to that moment when he smashed a 6 here to win a T20 game for the Foxes against Yorkshire. That's probably one of his highlights, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, my fondest memory is his 99 not out at Lord's in a red ball game, obviously against Middlesex, when two players came and went with him on 99. It's Leicestershire's 10 and 11.
Here comes Scriven again, and that's worked a leg this time by Ben Mike.
And as he came off, he put his arm around the Leicestershire number 11, who was distraught. It was Bjorn Hendricks, who was actually, you know, he'd be decent back when he put his mind to it and could hang around for a long time. And the Lord's Pavilion rose to Ben Mike, and it was lovely to see, actually.
Here he is then, flexing at the knee, high back lift. Waits, Scriven bowls, and he's pinged that one away back at a point. There's nothing wrong with that shot. 4 runs, nice way to get off the mark.
Will Jennings. I think I just about got my voice back after Saturday. I saw Richard Ray looking delighted but stunned on the outfield afterwards. Is it really the end of the season? That's probably a fair description. No, delighted, but yep, wonderfully happy about the way the game turned around.
So Scriven, the ball having disappeared beneath the covers, might be still a little bit of juice around under them. Gives it a good rub and comes in again to bowl to the former Leicestershire man, who's pushing at one that clearly did nib, didn't it? And Ben Cox unable to take it cleanly, but it's a big opportunity, isn't it, for Ben Mike? I mean, you know, realistically speaking, obviously there's nothing in the game for Yorkshire apart from playing for the pride of trying to pick up winning points and get off the bottom of the table, which is the target that Otis Gibson has set them following that 48-point deduction. He's asked for an opportunity on several occasions, I think, and he's got it here, and he's got all the time in the world, hasn't he? They're in a tough situation, so if he can come up with something now, then feather in his cap, and you know, he starts to show what he can do. Not easy out there, though.
No, it's not. It although it is lightish overhead at the moment, there's a sort of big bank of heavy grey stuff away to the south. If that comes over the ground, then light, remember the floodlights are on already, will definitely become an issue. Chris Wright is in, bowls to Revis outside off stump. Little bit of shape back in, but it was well wide and a perfectly safe leave by Matt Revis. Still the 3 slips, of course. Backward point, extra cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, and a very wide long leg. as Wright is in and bowls. That one does come back in, but from sort of off towards middle, and it was a little bit short of a length, and on the back foot Revis blocks it down the pitch on the onside, picked up by Leicestershire's captain Lewis Hill at mid-on. Right turns. We'll have to get used to coming in from the C end or the Cromwell Road end next season. In he comes and bowls, again straight, again Revis equal to it. Nice straight back down the pitch on the onside. Probably won't miss coming in from the pavilion end here at the Uptonsteel County Ground, which does have a slight slope. The C end, the Cromwell Road end, of course, you're coming down a big slope at Hove, aren't you? From the deck chair end.
The deck chair end, yeah.
If you like.
Yeah, the C end, it makes me laugh, that. What's his end called? We just call it the C end because the C's behind us.
Right turns. Charges in and bowls. Again, good leave from Revis. A little bit short of a length, so left on length as well as direction on that occasion.
Enjoy a trip down there, I've got to say.
Oh, it's nice. One of everybody's favourite trips,
yeah.
I would suggest.
Nice part of the world.
Although Leicestershire were a bit miffed because they found themselves in a hotel near Gatwick, which rather negates the whole point, really, of being on the coast, doesn't it? Anyway, fighting their way through the traffic from Gatwick each morning. I know. In goes Wright and bowls a little bit short and a little bit too straight. Worked by Revis in towards mid-wicket, but only as far as Davis at mid-wicket.
Imagine the coach's comments night before, right, get yourselves in bed for 7:30 lads, half 9 lads, we're off at 7:30 in the morning.
Well, yeah, wasn't great. There were things going on in Hove. There was actually, funnily enough, a triathlon
Were you
on
in
a
it?
Sunday. No, I didn't even know it was on, to be honest. Anyway, I was commentating at the time. In goes Wright and bowls, driven by Revis for 4 as well. He didn't quite get to the pitch of it, but he got right on top of the bounce and was in complete control as he cracked it away through the covers. And once again, it fairly races away past the covers to the electronics. In fact, it bounced off the covers out there, so it was fairly easy for Umar Amin to pick up in the end, but a beautifully hit shot by Revis, who moves on to 14, played as well as anybody so far, 120 for 6. There was also some sort of dog shows and all sorts of bits and pieces. I don't think Brighton were playing, they were up at Manchester United, weren't they, on the Sunday or something? No, something, I can't remember. But all sorts were going on. That was the excuse that Leicestershire were given, not being able to obtain enough hotel rooms in the same hotel.
Yeah. Okay, we have Tom Scriven continuing from this pavilion end. Comes scurrying in then to bowl here to Ben Mike, who punches solidly into the offside. Chris Wright. That's an interesting attempt at stopping that, but sort of does the job somehow in the end. And there's no run. So with Durham already gone, that'll take the 4-day trip up there out of the equation. But of course, you would think when they faff about with the 1-day cut groups that we'll probably end up playing against Durham, with them being fairly close by, relatively speaking, next year. They've not been in our 1-day group this year, Yorkshire's. Worcestershire takes the 4-day trip to New Road out of the equation, possibly, as Ben Mike gets the ball short of length. It wasn't the best delivery, and he treated it thus. 4 runs smashed away through the covers, taking him on to 8. And Yorkshire to 124 for 6. So if you're not to go up, and obviously we don't know what the situation is on that front, Richard, but as you've said, a difficult job from 21 points behind second place Worcestershire. If they do go, then that takes out one of the lovely trips in the New Road. I enjoy going there. And in fact, this year's 2 matches, of course, Yorkshire playing them at Headingley next week, are the only 2 4-dayers managed to do against Worcestershire, but there's been in different divisions in the last few seasons when I've been doing the job. Here's Scriven once again, and the ball wide of off stump, and just lays his bat on it. Ben Mike is certainly timing it nicely enough when he's playing a shot in anger, and he's now on to 10 from just 7 deliveries. 126 for 6. And then just looking at the first division table. Got it to hand actually.
It's between Middlesex and
Kent, isn't it?
for the other relegation spot, I think.
Yeah, Northants can't be saved. 63 points from their season. In comes Scriven again, and Mike just pushes into the offside, no run. Yeah, Kent second bottom on 93. Middlesex on 95. They're playing their last game of the season this week. Are they? Well, they've got asterisks on the Creek Info table at least. Just check on that. Yeah, Middlesex are playing Warwickshire. That's in play, unless others are starting later on in the week. This week in Division 1, as that is smashed away into the offside by Ben Mike, who then looks at the bottom of his bat. It was a half stop by Will Davies, a fairly short cover. 1 run, 11 to Mike, 127 for 6. Partnership so far worth 15. No, Langs are playing Notts, of course, aren't they, in Division 1. Essex against Hampshire. So yeah, Middlesex already bowled out for 121 today. Warwickshire 13 for 1 in reply, that's at Lord's. Scriven in, and Revis flicks that off the hip backward of square. Fielded out there by Armin, and they get another single. Revis on to 15, will keep the strike. That was the end of the 32nd over. 22 remain in the day. 128 for 6. So I might as well go through the scores. So yeah, Lords, Middlesex 121, Warwickshire 13 for 1. No play at Old Trafford between Lancashire and Notts. At Chelmsford, Essex 237 for 5, having won the toss, decided to bat. They're playing Hampshire. And Somerset playing Kent at Taunton. Somerset 165 for 1. They're off for rain at the moment. Derbyshire, Sussex, they've lost day 1 because of rain.
Oh, they didn't get on at all.
No, at New Road, 66 without loss. The home side, Worcester against Durham, who stuck them in. So they've made a pretty good start as well of trying to get promotion.
Wright continues, comes in and bowls to Revis, who's leaning forward with an angle bat, guiding it down towards third man. That's a long chase for Sol Budinger, the Leicestershire 12th man, and Revis should pick up 3 fairly comfortable runs, and does. Played that nicely. Moves on to 18, 131 for 6.
I get it now. The table, they've got asterisks against Middlesex and Warwickshire, not because they're in play together, but because they both had a point deducted for slow over rates. So they have played 13 each. This is Middlesex's final game of the season, so if they lose it, it's definitely going to be in some strife, aren't they? You would think.
Trip to Lords or Radlett or wherever. On the horizon then for Leicestershire potentially next season. Merchant Taylors, we last played Middlesex, I think, near Watford. As Wright is in to his former teammate Ben Mike, who defends on off stump. Out into the offside it goes. Scott Curry starting to warm up again. If Budinger is at backward point, that suggests Sam Evans. No, is that Evans down there at deep backward square? Where's Swindles? Swindles is the man who's not on the field at the moment. Right turns. It is getting darker. Comes running in. Bowls to Mike again on off stump. No, says Mike as he pushes it out. Slightly wide of Budinger, who has a bit of work to do to get to the ball, but too close to it for Mike and Revis to risk the single. 1 for 39 for Chris Wright from his 10.5 overs. A little bit inconsistent by his pretty high standards, Chris Wright. He's picked up the key wicket, perhaps, of Shan Masood. Right is in and bowls. Mike has a horrible waft at the ball outside off stump. Didn't need to play at it. The shot he played was a bit, well, not the greatest he's played. Got away with it. As he spotted, as he runs a good 4/5 of the way down the crease to push away a couple of, pick up a little bit, a few bits of dirt from Chris Wright's boots. How that could possibly affect Ben Mike as he runs pretty much the length of the pitch back to get into position to receive. Wright is in, bowls to him, he drives it straight back to him. It was straight and slightly the outside part of Ben's bat, and he indicates with his right hand that there was a little straightening to that delivery. He's right, there was. Right turns into finishes over. Bowls. Mike advances down the pitch, then leaves outside off stump. End of the over. The 11th he's bowled. Chris Wright, 131 for 6. 21 potentially remain to be bowled today, but as I say, there's heavier clouds now beginning to drift back over, and shadows from the big pylons around the Uptonsteel. Fairly clear from the players at the moment. Scott Curry's coming back on.
We've got an immediate return, of course, in his opening spell. 4th ball he bowled, in fact, in the match. He was the man who started the rot as far as Yorkshire were concerned by getting shot of Adam Lythe, who chipped a wide delivery, edged a wide delivery to Louis Kimber at second slip. So here is Curry, and immediately a bit of in-dip towards Matthew Revis, who gets an outside edge on it. It's a pretty good outside edge as he travelled quite nicely along the turf to backward point, 3rd man, and he picked up 1. So officially 20 overs and 5 balls remaining. As I say, still doesn't feel like they're going to get that amount of play in. That's just a hunch rather than anything factual. Sounds like an update for Richard any moment.
Shall rudely nip ahead. Ben Mike's taking his time here. He looks pretty determined out there. 11 off 14 for him. Curry is in, bowls to him, squared up a bit, but pushes it out into the offside, and there is no run. Here's the update. 6 wickets down now, the visitors, 2 since tea. The captain, Shan Masood, who went straight after tea, leg before wicket to Chris Wright for 34, and Johnny Tattersall, who was neatly caught by Rishi Patel at first slip off the bowling of Tom Scriven for 6. Matt Revis has played nicely, though. He's 19 not out, looking threatening, and Ben Mike, formerly of Leicestershire, is also at the crease. He is 11 not out. Leicestershire, as Mike hits another 4 there, looking for at least 2 more wickets before the close. The clouds are beginning to close in again down here in Aylestone. Yorkshire, though, in trouble on 136 for 6. That was a nice shot from Ben. A full delivery. Off driven.
Aylestone or Aylstone?
Yeah, what did I say? Aylestone.
I think you,
They tend to.
I think you did.
Leicestershire folk. Slightly shorten the vowels. In goes Curry and bowls. Mike drives, smacks it straight back into the middle stump at the non-striker's end. Would have been 4 otherwise. Stumps did their work, and umpire Bainton has to run, well, more than halfway down the pitch. Interesting, isn't it? The physics there. The ball should hit the stump so hard and the bails fly back in the direction of the strike.
So Curry with 2 to go in the over. comes, and that's short and pulled by Ben Mike. I've lost that, I've got to say, and so has he nearly, because it's gone out of the ground for 6. Felt like it might be, the way he seemed to strike it, but I completely lost it in mid-flight, and it has bounced out over the fence. Nice white fence as well, is that at the foot here? One of the spectators lobbing it back in.
It's this Ben's day when it all comes good in a Yorkshire shirt.
Long way to go yet. They don't need a pretty 30, do they? They want something more substantial. But it's been a good start from him, and he's certainly timing it well. That's dropped into the offside final ball of the over. And so Ben on 21 off 19. Revis 19 off 25, 142 for 6. Yorkshire's wickets to have fallen. Adam Lyth for 16, Finley Bean for 40, James Wharton leaving a straight 1 for 1. George Hill nicking 1 behind for 1. Shan Masood LBW soon after tea for 34, and Johnny Tellersall again trying to cut a shot with an angled bat that was probably a bit too close to his body. Got an edge to first slip when it was caught by Rishi Patel. He was the most recent dismissal when the score was on 112, so they've added 30 fairly quickly since then.
Yeah, looking good, these two. Both playing really nicely.
Over 8, by the way, is -1. Not that's a crisis, but you wouldn't want to lose any bonus points on that.
Right is in, bowls down the leg side. Revis cross with himself for not getting anything on that, not helping it down to a fine leg for 4.
Yorkshire lost 2 at Scarborough a couple of weeks ago. Having beaten Derbyshire and taken 20, it was reduced to 18.
Leicester have managed to sort of fiddle overs in from spinners when they've needed to avoid. They don't bowl their overs quickly, but they've lost points as yet. Right is in. Revis drives just past the stumps. He's going to have to hurry because he paused then, thinking it was going to hit the stumps. Then he went for the run. Hill picked up, and he's cross with himself. He had all 3 stumps to aim at as he picked it up, running across from mid on, but it wasn't the slickest piece of fielding from the skipper. His throw missed, but it wasn't a particularly sort of accurate. Well, obviously it wasn't accurate, but it wasn't a quick throw. He lobbed it rather in the direction of the stumps, and I suspect had it hit, Revis had made his ground anyway. Mike just checks his guard, looks around him, sees that Harry Swindoles, who's back with us, replacing Sol Budinger, comes running in from point 2 backward point. In goes right, bowls to Ben Mike, just defends it out into the offside, off stump, picked up by Umar Amin. No run. Running in from the point boundary to backward point, I should make clear. Just 7 days of cricket left for us, folks, after this season. First class cricket, that is, if all are played. Right, little shuffle at the start of his run, turns, knees pumping, comes in, bowls to right. Ooh, bounces down as he defends it, and I think it would have dropped wide of the stumps by an inch or 2, but that's far too close to take the chance, and Ben just uses his footwork to kick the ball away from the stumps, and turns and has a smiling, laughing exchange with Tom Scriven at mid-wicket. Scriven is the one who's sort of benefited most from Mike moving on, really. He's become the all-rounder in the side, and arguably Ben was sort of blocking him from coming in as right goes in, bowls to him, slightly short of a length on the back foot, blocks it out into the onside. Scriven picks up. There's no run. and bowls. Oh my goodness, Mike tries to drive it away. He's got a thick inside edge. It's missed the stumps by a whisker, and it's run down to the fine leg boundary for 4. Well, big break for Ben Mike, and perhaps that's what he needed, that little bit of luck that he needed. He moves on to 25 off 23, but could so easily have been heading back to the pavilion there. 147 for 6. Partnership grows to 35 and is beginning to become a real factor in the game.
Yeah, the only time Ben's got above 30 for Yorkshire was the 72 not out he made in a warm-up game against the Leeds and Bradford University side back in April. I mean, a lot of the time when he did play in T20 games, it has to be said, he was going in very back-endish, so you wouldn't expect a major score, as Curry's first delivery beats the outside edge of Revis's bat, and is a good one. But of course, wouldn't you know, his highest score in any match other than that warm-up game for Yorkshire was against Leicestershire. 30 not out, T20 match. But he didn't have a great trot in that competition, nor in fact in the 50 over comp when he got his opportunities. Good delivery, gone.
Hear it, yeah.
Outside edge from Matthew Revis, and Ben Cox takes a comfortable catch, moving away to his right towards first slip, and Revis now gone for 20. 147 for 7 now, Yorkshire. What are we, a 5:15 more or less on the day. That didn't start until 2:20, and Leicestershire now really beginning to make the most of winning the toss. Having said all that, and the way things have gone, in particular just before and since tea, it does feel like there's a bit more going on out there. I don't know about you, but off the pitch than there was in those first sort of dozen overs or so, 15 overs maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it may be that 200 is a decent score.
Yeah,
on this track, so
it's certainly been something to work with, you would think. You know,
absolutely. Let us not rush to judgment here. That was a bit of a sort of booming drive, wasn't it, from Revis, and it's a shame because he'd been playing really nicely. Matt Revis in going to 20, maybe just got a little bit, for some reason, frustrated at not getting a couple away. Went for the big drive, and you could hear the edge up here. 2 for 29 for Curry. Well, nicely.
Yep, so Jordan Thompson, we're going to have a left-hand, right-hand combi. And needs little introduction these days, does he, JT, in terms of how he wants to play the game. I think we all know that he will try and be positive out there, and I think there's 2 players who want to play that way. So if they had a half an hour together of doing something like that, then
that 200
be
could
interesting.
be left behind very quickly. Well, current run rate is 4.16, so they've scored the runs. Gone for the shots, Yorkshire.
Yeah, went from a duck to making 54 against Durham, then 32 and 64 against Derbyshire at Scarborough, Jordan Thompson, then a duck again last week at Glamorgan, so it can be a bit like that. In comes Curry bowling to him. It's down the leg side, and you probably feel like he's missed out there first up.
By the way he went for that, his very first delivery, I know it was a bad ball, but indication of a state of mind, an aggressive state of mind.
I thought you were going to start singing New York State of Mind then for a minute. Be one of your favourite artists, won't it? Here's Curry to Jordan Thompson, who steps across, but that's slanted right across him, and he's not tempted in having a flash this time.
Isn't everybody? Surely nobody minds a bit of Billy Joel, do they? You're not. You
can't speak for everybody, but
are you?
no, I'm fine. Yeah,
You don't
no,
mind a
good.
bit?
It reminds me of the days when Dad used to have Radio 2 on all the time when I was a nipper.
We just had a Radio 2 concert
Just
in
the
the
way
park.
you are, my life.
Yeah, innocent man.
Innocent. Well, I was 84, wasn't it, a bit later, as this one slanted across Thompson, who steps across and once again watches it go by.
So I could, yesterday evening, Sunday evening I should say, we're listening to from my balcony live, the Pretenders.
Seen them live.
Kylie Minogue.
Seen her live.
Have you? She was bouncing around. All sorts of people. Tears for Fears.
Seen them live a couple of times. This one slanted across by Curry, and once more Jordan Thompson not drawn into playing the shot.
Soft Cell, lead screen.
I haven't seen Soft Cell live, I don't think.
Simply Red.
Yes, I've seen them. I saw their farewell tour before they came back.
Well,
inevitably. Yeah.
Another one.
And I lost my ticket. I had a ticket to see them at the Alhambra in Bradford in 1987, so fairly early on, second album, and couldn't find the ticket come the day. So they wouldn't let me in. Tough.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Those were before the days when you could prove digitally that you had
that
it.
You'd bought it, yeah.
You could, had it on your phone. So Will Davis is coming back on at the Bennett end to replace Chris Wright. He's not been quite at his best today, righty. Davis, 2 for 23, his best bowling of the season, because it's his first time he's picked up any wickets for Leicestershire in the county championship this season. Comes in and bowls to Ben Mike. Slowish delivery, loosener, wind behind him notwithstanding, and Mike is waiting rather for that one before just defending it out towards Scriven at mid-wicket. Callum Parkinson jogs around the boundary below us. Working for the team to the very last is Callum, acting 12th man. And I'm sure we'll be dragged up to his new county Durham next week. Might just play, who knows. In goes Davis and bowls. Mike gets, oh, he's bowled him! It bounced, came back, came off his hand, perhaps his elbow, top of the bat. He's shaking his right hand and it jumped down onto the stumps from that sort of combination of bat handle, perhaps top of the bat, glove, and just did too much for Ben Mike. And promising innings, not for the first time from what JD has been saying, for Yorkshire comes to an end. 25 off 25, 147 for 8.
Yeah, I think I've sort of said, and you wouldn't be wanting a pretty 30. You'd need something of more substance given the match situation. Unfortunately, he's got himself in. He's played a few lovely shots, but he's not been able to go on from there and properly show us what he can do. So he'll be disappointed. Obviously, the team will be.
In fairness, he wasn't trying to do anything extravagant.
No,
he was
not saying it threw it away or anything, but yeah, it's obviously kicked a little bit, hasn't it? I think you're right. I think it did hit him on sort of just below the elbow. It felt like on the bone, didn't it?
He was shaking his right hand. He didn't.
Oh no, maybe hand. You might be right actually, rather than elbow.
It's hard to. No, he's looking at his elbow. Yeah, so.
Yeah. So another one bites the dust, and 2 wickets falling without any addition of a run. 147 for 8.
3 for Davis. Maybe Yorkshire will get a little pop at Leicestershire tonight. Might not mind it. Not easy conditions in which to bat these.
No, certainly the man who's just gone into bat will be probably interested, won't he? Ben Code, averaging 20 in first class cricket with 200 and odd wickets to his name, and usually very good at exploiting anything in the pitch that looks like this.
Davis is in. A swing and a miss from Ben Code. Outside off stop.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to die wondering either of these, really. Yeah.
Goodness me, yeah. Looking out for the yellow coat, but I can't see it now, of Mr. Code Senior.
I think it might be just down
down below
yeah.
us. But he's probably taking a little bit of a breath there as Davis goes in, bowls. And that's a nice shot from Ben Code, or Mr. Code Jr. punched away off the back foot wide of Swindles. Between he and Swindles goes chasing back from point towards the cover boundary, picks up around 10 yards or so inside the ropes, gets his throw away. But Code picks up a couple, moves on to, well, obviously 149 for 8, the score.
Yeah, it's if he hangs around a little while, Ben Code, it's often entertaining.
Waits with a bat raised as in goes Davis, bowls to him, drives pleasantly, but without any really aggressive intent, out towards wideish mid-off right fields.
Probably his favoured area, really. It's wide of mid-off or over mid-off. He might hit it in the air in that general direction. He has a bit of room to work with.
Twiddles the bat in his hands. Looks up to see Davis coming down the slope towards him and bowling. Makes a little bit of room for himself. Looks to punch it away through the offside right. Moves to his left of field, and again there is no run. End of a successful over for Will Davis. 7 overs, 1 maiden, 3 for 25 for him. 149 for 8. The Yorkshire score, 17 overs. Theoretically, remain to be bowled.
Yep, don't forget, I've got to go in a few minutes to do a Humberside update. 5:33.
No, you've got to go and speak to the good Firk of Hull.
The good Firk of Hull. Yeah, out wide and get him on side and all that. And I then got to do a York at 5:45 and a Leeds at 6:05 or something. Because it's got to that time of the season where, if we're really honest, I might forget.
Whatevs.
Yeah. Curry bowling here to Thompson, who plays that with an angled bat out to point. And there's no run. Jordan yet to get off the mark from 5 deliveries, having a good look here. Seven overs and 1 delivery gone. Yorkshire, having been 45 without loss, have lost 8 wickets for 104 runs since then. And in comes Curry, slanted across. Jordan Thompson, there you go. He's on the first tee, and he tried to hit that one somewhere over our heads, I think, but missed out. Encouragement on offer from the Leicestershire fielding contingent for Scott Curry. After that waft open stance, of course, Jordan Thompson does the usual flex at the knee, the back and across, and gets a full length ball, which he pushes into the offside, and there is no run. Harry Swindle's doing the fielding there at extra cover this time. Stewart in his fluorescent yellow top over by the scoreboard, just ambling around, and not much to do. Stewart in today, is there really? Short ball here by Curry, pulled by Thompson. He's not got anything like much of that, and it bounces well short of the field and just the 1 run, but he's off the mark. And the 150 is up. Yorkshire struggling for batting points here, and of course desperate for as many bonus points as they can get if they are going to lift themselves off the foot of the table during these next 2 matches. Curry in again, and Code flicking off the legs through mid-wicket, nicely played. He's going to pick up 2. Swindle's giving chase. Going on to 3, 152 for 8. And all have been wickets at regular intervals. Somehow it doesn't kind of feel like, probably contradictory to what the scoreboard says, it doesn't feel like it's been a collapse. It's just been a steady stream, because there's been a few chip-ins along the way. Anything 150 odd on any pitch still kind of feels short, but if you get to 200, as you say, feels like there's a bit of something to bowl at. That's Code drives this one to Chris Wright at mid-off to complete the over, and there's no run. But if Ben Code, if Jordan Thompson get in and among Yorkshire with plenty of bowling, Matthew Revis, George Hill, Ben Mike, of course, and Ben Cliff. He'll be last man into bat. So a plethora of seam bowlers for this one. That's the way they're going to have to do it, because frontline spinner Don Bess has missed out.
It's coming up to 5:30, at which point we should be calling it a day if the schedule is to be believed. In fact, we have 16 overs left to be bowled, so we have a good hour if, and it is a big if, we get them all. Right, third slip has come out to mid-wicket. Scott Curry trots deepish there. Well, they've seen Thompson's attempted hook, so this suggests that Davis, with all the fielders on the leg side sort of 3/4 of the way back, if not further, will drop a few short. In he goes and bowls. Thompson punches firmly the fullish delivery out towards the deep-ish mid-on, right about halfway back, and calmly takes one. So sensible piece of batting from Jordan Thompson, odd piece of bowling from Will Davis. A bluff that was kind of pretty obvious, if that's what it was.
It is, yeah, just doing a rough calculation. We've played, well, I've just done the minutes played and the overs bowled, and it's taking about 4 minutes 20.
Davis is in. Minimal foot movement from Code, but a nice swing of the bat as he cracks it out into the offside, but only as far as Umar Amin in the covers. Again, just giving himself a little bit of room, hitting through the line of the ball.
So it's taken an average of 420 to 425 per over, 4 minutes 20 to 425 per over, which is another well over an hour.
Yeah. Usually about 13.5, 14 overs an hour. In goes Davis, bowls, smacked up into the air, but Hill, I don't think he's going to get there as he goes sprinting back from mid-on. It drops well away from him, about 4 yards away from him. It doesn't make it over the mid-wicket boundary as the wind gets up again, a little more dark cloud coming over. It is darkish out there at the moment. Code picks up a couple, moves on to 6. Ready to hit the ball up into the air. Davis eyeing a 4-for, if not a 5-for. Pauses at the end of his run. Kicks up his heels, comes in and bowls. Code hits him up into the air. Hill misjudges it, but gets there in the end. And Thompson looks really disappointed with Ben Code there. As he came past him, he sort of gestured with his right hand. Hill initially, I think, thought it was going a lot higher and straight than it actually was. Had to readjust and run across to his right. Got there and took a good low catch. Now the umpires are coming together, and I'm not surprised because it is seriously dark out there now. And the floodlights, well, the point at which they take over from the natural light is not an objective one, it's rather subjective, isn't it? But anyway, Leicester have picked up their 9th wicket and their 3rd bowling bonus point.
Yeah, and you feel like there are more runs in Ben than that, but it sort of feels like back end of the season, you know, it's interesting out here, let's just play a few shots. That's the sort of feel about it. As Ben Cliff comes in for his first innings of the match, and I'll also have to disappear and do my 5:30. Thanks for a reminder.
There'll be a 5:30 update for BBC Radio Leicester, well, a little bit after, as it's a sports bulletin. 1:55 for 9 Yorkshire. They will be hoping that they get a chance to bowl at Leicestershire in these conditions, because the conditions have worsened, there's no doubt at all, in the last 20 minutes. It is pretty dark out there. Davis looking for a 5-for. is in to Cliff. Bowls. Cliff is forward, thick outside part of the bat, rather squirts it out to point, and there is no run. Just his third match, I think, Ben Cliff, his third first-class game, and he has just one first-class run to his name. Umpires coming together again. It is dark, really dark out there. Umpire Bainton comes across, speaks to umpire Pratt. They are looking at the sort of bank of cloud that is coming over, and I suspect this might be it, folks. It is. It is. It is pretty dark. So just the one delivery faced by Ben Cliff. 155 for 9, off 38.5 overs, just 38.5 overs. Yorkshire's first innings is occupied thus far. Theoretically, 15.1 remain to be bowled. I don't know if we'll have any of them, to be quite honest. The umpires will wait, but I suspect that might be it. And Leicestershire will be reasonably pleased with their efforts in the circumstances. 3 wickets, I beg your pardon, 4 wickets for Will Davis, 7.5 overs, 1 maiden, 28 runs, 4 wickets for him. Scott Curry, 2 for 32. He too has only got 7 overs to his name, also got 1 maiden. Given we're after the close of play's official time, I think that might well be it. Tom Scriven has 2 for 47 from 12. Chris Wright, 1 for 44 from 12. And they are the only 4 bowlers that Lewis Hill has had to use. Bringing on the covers, in fact on 2 comes the wheelbarrow with all the bits and pieces in it, so waiting to see whether they take the stumps out, the umpires. They've taken a measure anyway. We might have to wait. Here comes the update. In the meantime, for BBC Radio Leicester. They are doing all right. They're off the field at the moment, however, because having started late because of the rain, it looks like they might finish early because of the light. It is really dark and gloomy down here in Ayleston now. The floodlights have been on since the start, and the point at which the artificial light takes over from the natural light is when the umpires tend to call it. So they've sent the players off the field, but Leicestershire pretty happy as they've done so, because Yorkshire 155 for 9 in their first innings, just 1 wicket left for Leicestershire to get. They won the toss, put Yorkshire in at 45 without loss, with Adam Lyth and Finlay Bean going nicely. You wondered whether that was the right decision, but the ball has started to move around a little bit, and Leicestershire, as they did against Hampshire in the one-day cup final, have taken all their catches as well. And some of the bowlers who didn't play in that game, who've come into this game, have bowled really nicely. So Will Davis, playing for just the 3rd time in the county championship this season, hadn't taken a first-class wicket up to this point. Well, he's got 4 for 28. Tom Curry, who played for Hampshire against Leicestershire in the one-day cup final on Saturday, he's got 2 for 32. Tom Scriven has 2 for 47, and Chris Wright 1 for 44. My guess is that that'll be it for today. There's just over 15 overs left to be bowled in theory, but the dark conditions and the fact that, you know, it is this time of year and it does get dark so much earlier suggests that it'll be back tomorrow. But Leicestershire will be pretty pleased with their efforts. They've got the maximum bowling bonus points. Remember, they're 21 behind Worcestershire in the county championship. Worcestershire in second, Leicestershire in third. They have to win their last 2 games, and the Foxes, to put pressure on Worcestershire. But they've made a good start here. 155 for 9 Yorkshire. And we will hang around and wait for the final word from the umpires, just in case we do get back out there. But otherwise, well, you can see the pictures on the stream if you're watching on the stream. But otherwise, you won't miss a ball. We will be back on via the BBC Sport website and various other apps if we get back out there. But just for now, from the Uptonsteel County Ground, from Jonathan Deutsch of BBC Radio Leeds and myself, Richard Ray of BBC Radio Leicester, got that the right way around this time. It's a good evening from